Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP.
It's July 24th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. Today is National Amelia Earhart Day. The pioneering female aviator and author was born on this day in 1897. One of her greatest achievements was her solo crossing of the Atlantic in 1932, becoming the first woman and first person since Charles Lindbergh to make the nonstop flight. Tragically, while trying to circumnavigate the globe in 1937, Earhart's plane disappeared over the Pacific near Howland Island. However, today is meant to honor her many achievements as she continues to inspire generations of women to become flyers. Also on this date, in 1969, the astronauts of NASA's Apollo 11 mission returned to Earth after their successful trip to the moon, where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the lunar surface. The two men, along with command module pilot Michael Collins, returned as heroes. If it's your birthday today, you share it with Wonder Woman actress Linda Carter, born in 1951. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
Is cremation an option you're considering for you or your loved one? At Catholic cemeteries, we offer sacred, permanent places of rest where loved ones can be remembered, prayed for, and visited for generations. Too often, cremated remains are brought home, only to end up in closets, basements, or forgotten on shelves. Memorialization is forever. Honor their life. Preserve your legacy. Visit us today at CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org to schedule a free consultation or call 708-236-5490.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Sponsored by AxeCap Ventures. America, listen up. Gold prices are breaking records. With inflation raging and central banks hoarding, every American should own gold. And like President Trump said, whoever holds the gold makes the rules. AxeCap Ventures owns one of Nevada's largest undeveloped gold deposits and trades for pennies on the dollar. This could be your way to ride the gold boom. AxeCap trades under GARLF on the OTC. Visit axecapventures.ca today.
This is a special alert during this window replacement season. Don't get tricked by the cheapest offers and gimmicky ads. Now's the time to see and feel the difference of high-performance windows from Valdecas.
When it's time to consider new windows, siding, and doors for your home, you need to look no further. Sebastian Gorka here to tell you about Valdecas. Valdecas has been the trusted name chosen by thousands of homeowners, and they should be your number one choice too. But what's really behind the name Valdecas? Over 25 years of a team dedicated to providing you with the best customer service experience and products that truly bring value to your home. They are a Pella Platinum Elite Status certified contractor for a reason. They have an A+ rating with the BBB, as well as high ratings and positive reviews on both Google and Houzz. Schedule your free in-house consultation at valdecast.com.
Ask about their exclusive manufacturer warranties and their 10-year workmanship guarantee.
Don't wait. Book today at valdecast.com. For the best in class, it's Valdecast.
I'm worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there every day this week, helping her navigate the stairs, cooking meals, reminding her to take her medicine. I'm always nervous when I leave.
You know what? I admire you for taking care of Mom. But your family needs you too. And what if she slips and falls? A friend recommended the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. They service Cook, DuPage, Kane, and Will counties. They guarantee compatibility and they'll conduct a free safety assessment of her home. Plus, they'll provide as little or as much care as Mom needs.
Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, offering both hourly and live-in care. Schedule a free assessment today by calling 331-281-0728. That's 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
That shot was money, Lisa. Hey, speaking of, did you ever figure out what to do with your parents' old coin collection?
Not yet. I need a reputable dealer to appraise them. I have no clue what they're worth.
I just finished working on my dad's estate collections. I took it all to Fox Valley Coins. Their customer service was the best. Plus, they're super honest and reputable, but most importantly, experienced. They'll give you the best prices.
Really? They handle estate collections?
Absolutely. Buying, selling, appraising, they do it all. It was quick and simple, and we maintained our privacy. Fox Valley Coins made the whole process easy.
That's exactly what I need. Are they local?
Right in Naperville. They have an easy website to remember. FoxValleyCoins.com.
Perfect. Now let's see if you can return this shot.
Whether buying or selling or just want valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your trusted gold and silver dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
Did you know that AM 560 Radio has a full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 Radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners. All-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Josh Dawsey, Tyler Page, and Isaac Arnsdorf are out with a new book on last year's tumultuous presidential campaign. Titled simply 2024, the volume has within it much that is familiar, as well as many blasts of new details. The short of it is this. The 2024 election is the stuff of nightmares for Democrats, nightmares that are not going to go away anytime soon. I came away from 2024 asking, can anyone in the party's circle of consultants and donors actually run a campaign? The Beltway elites of the left are very long in the tooth and perhaps more angry with each other than they are with President Trump. Will any Democrat want anyone from either the Biden or the Harris teams to be on their staff come the future 2028 campaign? 2024 should be read by every would-be Democratic nominee. There are a lot of Beltway political experts who are anything but. Forewarned is forearmed. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Don't miss Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn every Sunday from 11 to 12. Robert has a different way of looking at retirement from most financial advisors and is happy to share his ideas with you every week. So don't miss what he has to say on AM 560 The Answer. Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn, Sunday mornings from 11 to 12.
My friend Paula just remodeled her kitchen. I feel bad. It's so bland.
Yeah. Everyone's using the same templated designs these days or just refacing cabinets.
Let's check out Forever Remodeling. They do full and custom kitchen remodels from the ground up, just for us.
It'd be nice to have a kitchen that's truly ours.
Exactly.
Don't get the same kitchen design as everyone else. Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
Experience a luxurious summer when you visit Trump International Hotel and Towers, Chicago, a Forbes Travel Guide 5-star hotel. Take in stunning views of the Chicago skyline from the heart of the city, steps away from the iconic Magnificent Mile and the revitalized Riverwalk. Treat yourself to exquisite dining at Terra 16 Restaurant and Rebar Lounge, overlooking the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. Catch the Navy Pier fireworks display from Terra 16's patio on Wednesdays and Saturdays all summer long. Relax in immaculately designed suites that offer the utmost level of comfort. Refresh in the state-of-the-art spa featuring a 75-foot swimming pool, steam and sauna rooms, relaxation lounge, and more. The Trump Hotel Chicago offers sophistication and elegance to downtown Chicago and is a convenient travel destination for your summer getaway. Simply visit Trump Chicago online to make your reservations today and search offers to find the never settle summer stay. Book today.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in Chicago with a simple mission to help companies like yours grow, succeed, and thrive. Their decisions are made locally by a terrific team that knows your name, cares about your business, and invests in your success. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. I'm a customer. As business owners, they knew that local family-owned businesses were not getting the help they needed or deserved. So I invite you to reach out to my friends at Signature Bank today. Write the number down. Remember this phone number, Signature Bank, 773-467-5630, and learn all about this great bank, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
FestGen Wealth Partners knows you're feeling the pinch of rising cost of living, and you are not alone. Potentially maximize your savings and get the guidance you need through times of uncertainty with a team at FestGen Wealth Partners. Get started at GetRetiredStayRetired.com.
Advisory services offered through FestGen Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and FestGen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. FestGen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax legal advice.
Hey, I'm Steve Wyatt, and I want to invite you to the Wyatt Matters Show, which airs every Sunday on this station. You can expect lively discussion and heartfelt reflection that will both entertain and inspire you. And if we do it right, maybe deliver some genuine laughter as well. We talk about not only what matters, but also why it matters.
Wyatt Matters, Sunday morning at 6 on AM 560. The Answer. Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, highs reaching 94. Tonight stays mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, lows dropping to 73. Thunderstorms may cause flash floods and strong winds in spots. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and before we get to Tulsi Gabbard's briefing and the latest tranche of Russia Gate documents that she released yesterday, just updating the Epstein files matter, because there were a couple of developments yesterday. And, oh, by the way, just as an aside, and a nice segue momentarily into the Tulsi Gabbard briefing, for something as high profile as the Epstein files that generated so much attention, much of it instigated by President Trump and the MAGA-verse, why not do something like for the Epstein files like Gabbard did for the Russiagate files yesterday? Why not have Bondi and or Patel do the sort of briefing on what is and isn't being released, the sort of explanation up front or concurrent to decision is being made, as opposed to issuing an unsigned memo? Seems to me that maybe it's just a difference in styles between Gabbard and Bondi. Maybe it's a lesson learned from the Trump administration about how to communicate on important matters where a statement, no matter how comprehensive, is not going to quell all the questions that abound. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, just as an aside. So, two things. Yesterday, a Florida judge ruled that the Epstein grand jury records will remain sealed. Federal judge in Florida, Obama appointee, denied one of three Justice Department requests to unseal grand jury records tied to federal investigations into Epstein. The request is one of three made, as mentioned, to judges in New York and Florida seeking to unseal these records. By the way, something that probably also, in retrospect, should have been done up front and then announced up front in the interests of transparency, that favorite word of politicians and their flacks, in the interests of an exhaustive review and an exhaustive presentation within the limits of the law and DOJ protocols. We have initiated these requests, even if you wanted to make a statement or have a briefing before these matters to unseal records were fully adjudicated. You could at least show good faith by doing these things without having to be essentially goaded into it, which is how the Trump administration got here. So that's one matter, and we'll see if that is ultimately appealed. We'll also see what happens and pay attention to what happens to the other two requests. The other is the Wall Street Journal, and I know they're under defamation suit by President Trump for the alleged birthday letter he sent Epstein that he denies. But the Wall Street Journal reporting yesterday that in May, Trump got a briefing on the Epstein files, and he was told by Bondi that his name appears in the Epstein files. Now, there's nothing more than his name appears among, as do the names of other high-profile people, at least according to the Wall Street Journal report. There is no indication of any alleged wrongdoing. In May, this is the Journal's report, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the records is not a sign of wrongdoing. The officials said it was a routine briefing that covered the officials that spoke to the Journal said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics and that Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. They told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. One of the officials familiar with the documents said they contain hundreds of other names. Well, so there is a list. It may not be a client list, but there is a list. But even this story, if this is true, and Trump has essentially acquiesced to the questions, acquiesced meaning indicated yes to the question of whether or not he was briefed by the Attorney General. So there's every reason to believe he was. It's as you would expect him to have been before Bondi released that memo a couple weeks back. But here again, I know we had this conversation with Will Chamberlain from the Article 3 Project yesterday, and he made the point, and it's a good one, that, you had Epstein victims, some of the more high-profile ones like Virginia Giuffre, that had really good legal representation. And he points to the scant civil suits against unnamed or named parties for sexual criminal, a civil a case for sexual assault, sexual harassment, other intentional infliction of emotional distress, the sort of torts that you can build a civil case around, even if criminal charges were not to accompany them. That's a good point. But I still, just based on this, I still don't understand why, at the outset, Trump doesn't say, you know what, my name's in it, and there's all this swirl about it. I didn't do anything wrong. Everybody already knows that I knew Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody also knows that I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, and this is an opportunity for me to retell that story. But let's put everything out there. Let's announce that the president's name is on the list, and he didn't do anything wrong other than, he knew Epstein. That's not a crime. He ultimately came to a judgment about Epstein. That was the proper judgment. But we're just letting you know because there's all sorts of, as the Wall Street Journal reports, unverified information about high-profile people. And we don't go around sliming people at the Department of Justice, and we don't go around trafficking and hearsay. So what we're going to do is continue the investigation to look at whether there is a there with respect to some of the named parties, if there are material accusations of criminal wrongdoing in the direction of named parties. And then we're going to separate the wheat from the chaff to present if and when we get to the point where we feel we have a colorable criminal case to make against a particular person. That's understandable. So I if that's how this all shakes out, okay. I still have unanswered questions like the DOJ, and admittedly this was a previous DOJ's estimates of somewhere between 250 and 1,000 girls who were victimized, all by Epstein and Maxwell. And we also, of course, have other shoes to drop with the House Oversight Committee this week subpoenaing Ghislaine Maxwell to testify before said committee. John in Portage Park, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Hey, John, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. John, going once, going twice. All right. Well, I'll tell you what I think John was going to argue is that Epstein is a distraction from Obama, not the other way around. Yeah, the whole Epstein is a distraction. Well, to the extent Epstein is a distraction from what we're discussing as it pertains to Russiagate and President Obama's culpability in this political skullduggery, conspiracy to deprive rights, there's some line drawing to be made. To the extent it's a distraction, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Has the way the Trump administration handled this over the last couple of weeks turned this in to much more of a quote-unquote distraction than it otherwise would have been? We'll pick that up at the other side of the news because it's time for the headlines.
Good morning. It's 80 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. The White House says former President Obama tried to sabotage President Trump after his 2016 election victory. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said newly declassified documents confirm those allegations.
The Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard claims the election report is troubling.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false.
She added that they withheld the truth from the American people. Leavitt said the documents also further confirmed that there was no collusion between President Trump and Russia. In a rare response earlier this week, Obama's office called the allegations outrageous, bizarre, and a weak attempt at distraction. And the Fantastic Four: First Steps is expected to earn between $100 and $110 million at the domestic box office in its debut this weekend. This report is sponsored by Dairy Queen. It's cake batter. It's cookie dough. It's the new Superman cake batter cookie dough blizzard treat. Now at participating DQ locations for a limited time. Fly in today for this cosmic collision of flavor. And don't miss Superman in theaters now. DQ, happy tastes good. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP.
Charlie, is there something better we can do with all these pallets, OCC, and shrink wrap? It just keeps building up.
Well, we have a trash company that's supposed to haul it away. I guess they're not keeping up.
Well, maybe we should shop around. All this paper, plastic, metal, this can all be recycled. We spend way too many hours just moving it around.
Actually, my buddy's company uses Combined Resources in Addison. They pick up recyclables all over Chicago and safely dispose of it. They have this huge recycling center. Apparently, it saves them a lot in waste expenses, too.
Well, let's give Combined Resources a call.
Since 1986, Combined Resources, Inc. has been your one-stop shop recycling and sustainability partner. CRI's programs reduce labor and hauling costs, boost rebate returns, and help your company go green. If your company has paper, cardboard, plastic, pallets, and metal that you want cleared and recycled, CRI will take care of it all and help you meet sustainability goals. Call 877-CRI-PLAS and learn how CRI supports smarter recycling at combinedresources.us. Combined Resources, Inc., turning waste into worth, one resource at a time.
You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there's lots of places that also have it. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every single second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock specialist is going to help solve the identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% off your first year with a promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell.
Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
2815 Old Jacksonville, Springfield. CordellCordell.com.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, high of 94. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, low of 73. Thunderstorms could cause damaging winds and flash flooding. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, picking up on how not to handle communication to the public about a major case, from how to handle communication to the public about a major case. Bondi to Gabbard. And, President Trump backing Bondi's play, so I guess maybe there were some lessons learned about how to do this. After the first group of documents related to the Russia hoax were released by Gabbard on Friday, created quite a swirl. She went out and defended the documents and offered her analysis of what the important takeaways are, as we've been discussing all week. And then yesterday, another batch came. And this is what she had to say, just generally speaking, about what the former President Obama and his senior team of spooks did.
They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people.
Any problems with the release of these documents and the arguments that are being offered by, well, starting with President Trump, who's been quite explicit this week, invoking the T word, and Tulsi Gabbard stopped just short of it. The statements that she made about the criminal referral. Yes, a criminal referral. Does that include Obama? Yes, it does.
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former
the evidence,
President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Ed, go ahead.
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I'm not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, The expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
Well, she said she'll leave the determination of criminality to the Department of Justice, but then she called it a treasonous conspiracy, which is basically a criminal determination. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line and text line. But I ask if there are any issues, if we should just walk away from this too, because it's uncomfortable, because it's being downplayed by the D.C. press corps, because it is being characterized by some, like the Wall Street Journal editorial board, as engaging in the very practice you decried. As they opine, by calling to go after people, quote unquote, Trump is demanding more partisan lawfare, identifying targets and urging prosecutors to find crimes to charge them with. It's the same thing that was done to him by Manhattan's Alvin Bragg, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Mr. Biden, whose White House leaked that he supported prosecuting Trump. Now Trump is back in power after telling voters he would end the weaponization of law enforcement. The lawfare backfired on Trump, and our guess is it would do the same on Republicans, and the lawfare backfired, I should say, on Democrats, and our guess is that it would do the same on Republicans and Mr. Trump. That's what they argued. Are we falling into the lawfare trap here? When I say we, I mean Gabbard and Trump and the Trump administration. We'll talk a little bit more about the legalities in detail, the legal arguments to be made with former federal prosecutor Andy McCarthy at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. However, I must say, comparing what we have here to the bogus cases brought by Letitia James and Alvin Bragg in New York is a apples to orange groves comparison. I mean, there is real substantive evidence of real federal crimes here, circumstantial at this juncture. Maybe it doesn't rise to the level of Obama, but let's start with the idea that Obama and all relevant parties, like everybody at the December 9th meeting where they decided to do 180 on the intelligence assessment, are bad political actors. They acted in a malevolent way to the incoming administration and by extension to the American people. Let's start there. And then let's see if anything they did when they were acting in malevolent ways rises to the level of criminality. At minimum, I think the evidence suggests the possibility of perjury and conspiracy to commit perjury charges for Brennan and Comey. And there may be more there. We talked to, again, Will Chamberlain from the Article 3 Project yesterday. Conspiracy to deprive the current president of his rights. Seditious conspiracy, treason. I mean, these are all crimes that are enshrined in federal criminal law, statutory law. Would it require an expansive reading of those statutes to bring charges against these individuals, including perhaps the former president? Maybe. I don't think we fully know. You know, two tranches of documents have been released. As we discussed yesterday, the possibility of an ongoing conspiracy that persists to this day exists. I mean, yes, President Obama has immunity for acts taken in his official capacity as President of the United States, including with respect to directing that new intelligence assessment that he called for on December 9th. But if he participated in illicit activity post-presidency, Well, that's not covered. Presidential immunity means just that, while in office, and that's what the Supreme Court held. So there, you have people waving around that Supreme Court opinion saying, doesn't Trump remember, and doesn't he understand this applies to Obama? Yeah, I know. I certainly the lawyers do, but that we still have questions. This just started in terms of understanding the details. And I know you're getting this is old news. This is a mischaracterization of what really occurred. But we actually did get new information yesterday. Matt Taibbi, who's been one of the best at documenting this, these many years, a reformed Hillary Clinton voter, Matt Taibbi. He writes yesterday after the doc dump by Gabbard, it was worse than we thought. The January 6th, 2017 intelligence community assessment concluding that Putin developed a clear preference for Trump and aspired to help his chances for victory, developed a clear preference, aspired to help his chance for victory. Those are quotes from the intelligence community assessment. The January 16 ICA is revealed in a report released this morning by DNI Gabbard to have been based on 4 pieces of evidence. One was the Steele dossier. Not a surprise. The surprise is that the other 3 were even less credible. Each included over objections of the report's CIA authors. The first item was a, quote, scant, unclear, and unverifiable fragment, unquote, of one sentence that the report's 5 CIA authors read 5 ways and initially left out, only to have Brennan order it back in. The second item was an email with no date, no identified sender, no clear recipient, and no classification. The third was supposedly backed by liaison, diplomatic, and press reporting, as well as signals intelligence, except the signet didn't mention Trump, the liaison reporting didn't mention Trump, and it was from 2014. And the diplomatic and media reporting was a post-election review by a U.S. ambassador citing a Russian pundit who said Putin and Trump should work together like businessmen. That was the evidence that they pulled together that Putin had developed a clear preference for Trump. As Taibbi writes, all 3 reports weren't just unsourced and unreliable, but discarded fictions pulled out of the CIA's trash heap. They manipulated the manipulations, is how DNI Deputy Chief of Staff Alexa Henning put it. And she put it well. Manipulated the manipulations. The layers of dishonesty. And I'm being generous when I say dishonesty. So there's nothing to talk about. Everybody should just move on. No, I don't think so. I said it with the Epstein files. I'm saying it here. And I'm obviously not the only one. When we have questions about big cases that have broad implications, we want credible answers from people in power. And we want accountability when people in power act badly. Maybe that accountability rises to the level of criminal prosecution. Maybe it does, but we want a full accounting of it. And then the system and those in charge of the system need to use their judgment to mete out appropriate punishment to cement the accountability. This doesn't seem terribly complicated if you come to it with an open mind and in good faith. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line, Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call, Dan. The issue here to me is this. If this doesn't get done, no president that comes to Washington, D.C. is safe because the incumbent administration can pull stunts like this to derail your presidency. So this has to get done. And the issue of justice, it's got to get done.
Thanks for the call, Corey. Building on what Taibbi wrote, he added this in his appearance on Megyn Kelly's podcast, the so-called smoking gun, and the performative nature of this, presidential directive to redo the intelligence assessment about Russia and Trump. the tell.
Yeah, and that's really the striking set of documents is you can see on December 9th, there is an order from the Director of National Intelligence Office basically giving out directions on how to put together a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request. But as they're giving out the assignment, the homework is already published in the New York Times and the Washington Post. In other words, they hadn't even started work yet, or group work, on this assessment, and they were already telling everybody in the media what the conclusion was. So the entire work period of this had to be a sham. Essentially, they pre-concluded what was going to be in the assessment and started leaking in advance.
Well, exactly, because as we know about John Brennan, he was pitching this around in the fall of 2016. So, of course, he was, once Obama gave the green light to redo the assessment, after he was bulldozing any dissent within his own agency among his own handpicked analysts to produce the assessment. Once he got that green light, well, yeah, let's go. Let's get it out there. Then we'll formalize it internally, paper the file, and, it's chum to the D.C. press corps sharks. Molly Hemingway has something to say about them. We'll get to momentarily. Greg in Schaumburg.
Morning, Dan. Dan, I don't understand this in the way in which you're analyzing it right now. You seem to have slid past Obama being in office in December of 2016 with what Tulsi said yesterday, having received a report that you just alluded to, I think on December 9th or the 6th of 2016, and then having rejected from the CIA 5 guys that wrote it, demanded that they do it over again, make it firmer. So that's the key phrase. Make it more legally premised against, make it stand up. And then it was received again by him on the 22nd of December. And then they batted it back and forth and then ultimately released it just before Inauguration Day in January of 2017. So given all of that, and given the Supreme Court recent case on immunity that had the 3-bucket rule, seemingly that fits bucket 3 where he is dead to right if everything that Tulsi has said is true. Do you agree with that?
No.
Why? Why?
Because the argument that he doesn't have immunity for the initiation of the reassessment of the intel on this matter, he does.
Wait a minute. No, if it is a lie?
Where does Obama say that I want you to manufacture something that I know to be untrue?
Well, let me rephrase it this way: if Obama is sitting there,
and by the way, by the way, if he said that, he still would have presidential immunity.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, the presidents can do whatever they frickin' want.
Well, yes, that is largely the case while in office.
No, it isn't, because
yeah, it is.
Dan, well then, okay.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Get back to it. I'll get back to it. Mark in Oak Lawn.
Hey, how you doing, Dan?
Good. Go ahead.
Hey, a couple things. 2 points. They asked Obama one time what his definition of sin was, and his answer was, well, whatever goes against my conscience.
My values, he's his own God. Yep.
So that's one point. Second point is, why can't we get? I've seen a lot of bad actors take the witness stands that are in certain trials and that. You go to the root of it. You get this Richard Steele. I know he's a hoodlum, and I know he's from England, and those two things don't add up well. But he's the guy that you could get to sing a little bit, and you get all the answers.
Christopher Steele, Richard Steele was a boxing ref, if I remember. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. We'll get into this with McCarthy a little bit later, but Obama's directions, based on what we know right now as president, per the Supreme Court, I think you're going to hear from Andy McCarthy as well, fall well within his scope of presidential powers, constitutionally prescribed presidential powers. Yeah, the distinction the Supreme Court made was between official versus unofficial acts. And former presidents, while president, are entitled to absolute immunity for the official acts they take as president. They cannot be prosecuted for actions taken within their core constitutional duties. And President Obama, all he would have to argue, if this is the sum total of it, the ordering of the reassessment, all he has to argue is, I did it because I had national security concerns about Russia meddling in the election. And I can point to people that are at the upper reaches of the intel community. I just said John Brennan was pitching this Trump-Russia thing back in the fall of 2016. I got my CIA director running around saying there is smoke here. So that's why when I got this assessment, it didn't seem to square with what I had heard from some of my top people, and I ordered the reassessment, and I let the professionals do what the professionals do. On the Obama piece, it is going to have to be, if he is implicated criminally, acts taken in furtherance of a conspiracy, criminal conspiracy, while he was not in office. But we'll pick that up. There's more to talk about on this matter. We'll take more calls on at 6:06. It is now 6 a.m. AM 560 WIND Chicago.
They may talk as soon as today. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and Ghislaine Maxwell, the Jeffrey Epstein associate who's in prison, convicted of her role in sex trafficking underage girls. The House Oversight Committee also wants to talk to Maxwell.
Republican Chairman James Comer issued the subpoena after the committee approved it in support. A letter from Comer says, quote, "It is imperative that Congress conduct oversight of the federal government's enforcement of sex trafficking laws generally and specifically its handling of the investigation and prosecution of you and Mr. Epstein." House Speaker Mike Johnson has questioned whether she can be a trustworthy witness.
That's Fox's Ryan Schmelz. In the push for the release of the Epstein files, a federal judge denied an attempt to have grand jury documents unsealed. As the Wall Street Journal reports, President Trump has been told his name is among many in the files, which the White House calls a fake story. The president loses again in court in his attempt to prevent children born to parents here illegally from being U.S. citizens. A federal appeals court ruled it's unconstitutional.
The president has long criticized the policy as a magnet for illegal immigration and argued he could end it by executive authority. But several courts are saying only Congress or a constitutional amendment could change it. The issue is now one step closer to the Supreme Court.
That's Fox's Tom Rigotti. Columbia University has worked out a settlement with the federal government, paying $200 million to get twice that amount in federal grants restored. The money revoked as the Trump administration alleged Jewish students' rights were violated when Columbia allowed destructive pro-Palestinian protests. In a statement, Columbia admits reform is needed and students experience painful incidents. Brian Kohberger is starting the rest of his life in prison.
No one will care who you are, and no one will ever respect you. You will be forgotten, discarded, used, and erased.
That's Christy Gonzalez talking to Kohberger at his sentencing. Her daughter Kaylee was one of the 4 University of Idaho students he murdered in 2022. Kohberger refused to make a statement. America's listening to Fox.
Good morning. It's 80 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Work is underway on new affordable housing on the South Side. Mayor Johnson joined city officials to celebrate the groundbreaking of the Legends South A3 affordable housing complex.
It's going to bring new life to a footprint of the old Robert Taylor homes, and revitalizing this area along State Street brings new retail and development opportunities for the entire community.
The project will bring 42 new affordable units and 10 additional market rate units to the former site of the Robert Taylor homes in the city's Bronzeville neighborhood. Members of the Chicago School Board are asking Governor Pritzker to call a special session to generate money for local schools. The Chicago public schools are facing a $734 million budget deficit. The board adds the school board across the states are also facing budget issues as federal COVID funds are running out. Chicago school board members Aaron Brown and Debbie Pope embraced the Chicago Teachers Union's demands for the state to provide additional funds for schools. CPS must have a balanced budget by the end of August. The governor's office says it would like to provide more money for education, but finding the dollars was a challenge. NASCAR is taking the street race to San Diego next year. The event was held in Chicago's Grant Park for the last 3 years. The race will take place Father's Day weekend. Meanwhile, Chicago officials say there is a possibility the race will return to the Windy City in 2027. News is a service of Fox Valley Coins. No waiting, no problems, no charge for in-store verbal appraisals. Bring your gold or silver in today. FoxValleyCoins.com. Check out the roads coming up in 2 minutes. It's on AM 560 The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP. Looking for some hope? Listen to Leading the Way with Dr. Michael Youssef on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. Weekday mornings starting at 8.
Experience a luxurious summer when you visit Trump International Hotel and Towers, Chicago, a Forbes Travel Guide 5-star hotel. Take in stunning views of the Chicago skyline from the heart of the city, steps away from the iconic Magnificent Mile and the revitalized Riverwalk. Treat yourself to exquisite dining at Terra 16 Restaurant and Rebar Lounge, overlooking the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. Catch the Navy Pier fireworks display from Terra 16's patio on Wednesdays and Saturdays all summer long. Relax in immaculately designed suites that offer the utmost level of comfort. Refresh in the state-of-the-art spa featuring a 75-foot swimming pool, steam and sauna rooms, relaxation lounge, and more. The Trump Hotel Chicago offers sophistication and elegance to downtown Chicago and is a convenient travel destination for your summer getaway. Simply visit Trump Chicago online to make your reservations today and search offers to find the never settle summer stay. Book today.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
From the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 14 minutes. Outbound is about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 8 minutes. Outbound is about 9 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 12 minutes. Outbound is about 13 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 16 minutes. Outbound is 15 minutes. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 12 minutes. Outbound is 10 minutes. Traffic is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, highs reaching 94. Tonight stays mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, lows dropping to 73. Thunderstorms may cause flash floods and strong winds in spots. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We were discussing the documents that Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released yesterday, and appropriately had a White House press briefing to discuss said documents, their contents, their importance. Before we get deeper into it, I just want to go back to something that was offered up by Greg from Schaumburg to provide a little bit more context to this idea that what they presented on Obama thus far is enough to potentially charge him as party to a criminal conspiracy. Going back to the presidential immunity case, the decision the Supreme Court handed down, and Greg mentioned, and I didn't have time at the end of last hour to fully respond, so let me fully respond. The 3 buckets test that the Supreme Court laid out in that presidential immunity case. The 3 buckets Greg was referring to, the president has absolute immunity. This is the Supreme Court holding. Absolute immunity for actions taken that fall under the core constitutional powers of the executive. Presumptive immunity, bucket number 2, actions that fall within the outer perimeter of official responsibility, if not explicitly within the core powers, but are naturally attendant to the core powers, there is presumptive immunity. So, I mean, think about the evidentiary standard, the evidentiary hurdle you would have to clear to pierce presumptive immunity with respect to acts taken that are at least tangential to core constitutional powers. And then there's the unofficial actions where there's no immunity. Actions taken by the president that are not official duties, are outside the scope of their office. Those can be subject to criminal prosecution. But as I said, directing your top intel people to do a reassessment of the draft intelligence assessment, that is within the president's core powers as the commander-in-chief, within his core national security powers. And, I mean, the idea that, first of all, and there's no indication, as I said, that you have evidence that he directed them to produce exactly this, knowing exactly this would turn out was completely false, as Matt Taibbi outlined and we discussed. Well, we've been discussing, and we've got more evidence to support that conclusion yesterday, as we discussed at the end of last hour. So, as I said, and as we discussed yesterday with Will Chamberlain, a lawyer with the Article 3 Project, unless and until there is evidence that that Obama engaged in illicit activities while not in office, part of the criminal conspiracy after his time in office, and he engaged their material acts that support the conclusion that he was part of this treasonous conspiracy, was the phrase that Tulsi Gabbard used. We'll see if it's a phrase that Pam Bondi is comfortable with. It's been referred for a criminal investigation and prosecution. Unless you have that, then you don't have Obama with respect to a criminal prosecution. Okay. Something else, though. I just want to go back to something else we raised but wasn't fully vetted last hour. The response, because you're going to hear it. You heard it from the Wall Street Journal editorial board. You decried the weaponization of the justice system, weaponized against President Trump and his supporters. And now you're engaged in the very same thing. You're trying to criminalize politics. You're weaponizing the justice system against dedicated public servants just because they have said mean things about you. Here was Tulsi Gabbard's response to the weaponization question that was asked by Phil Wegman from Real Clear Politics, which is a fair question. Should have a good response to that question. Tulsi Gabbard started, and then Caroline Leavitt interceded to add her own thoughts.
I think that's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies and knowing that it would and could then be used for all of the actions that came after.
Carolyn, and I would just add, there needs to be accountability for that weaponization, Phil, that we've seen. And no one has been a victim of the weaponized government more than President Trump, not just because of this political scandal. You all recall his house was raided. So I think, it's very disingenuous for people to say, how dare they speak of former President Obama about this based on evidence and based on intelligence, when the former President of the United States, Donald Trump's home was raided, when he was forced to sit in a Manhattan courtroom and many other courtrooms across the country for crimes he never committed, when he was impeached and indicted, and the entire country witnessed that. That's the weaponization of justice. Now the president is back because the American people see the truth. Nearly 80 million Americans reelected him back to this office, and he believes that we need to have justice and accountability. And I think the nearly 80 million Americans who reelected him agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's an important distinction they make. They collectively made. First of all, we're not to a prosecution yet. There are people arguing for it, but you have to have the Department of Justice put together the case. Will they be engaging in novel applications of our arcane statutes, like Alvin Bragg did, or Jack Smith did with Sarbanes-Oxley, to prosecute and the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland to prosecute J6 defendants? Interruption of an official meeting, making that using that to criminalize political dissent, using that to overcharge nonviolent offenses like criminal trespass, when the criminal trespasser was escorted by Capitol Police. The Business Records Act application Alvin Bragg used to try to criminalize the payment of alleged hush money. Letitia James, her fraud case, a fraud case in which no one lost money. So, and what do we have here? We have evidence of the director of the CIA, the director of the FBI, senior intel and law enforcement officers in the Obama administration, including the president himself, knowingly platforming false information about an incoming president of the United States to subvert the will of the people, a phrase that Tulsi Gabbard used, but really to open Pandora's box and to unleash the plagues of the D.C. press corps and the bipartisan combine in D.C. and the institutional interests inside the Beltway to sideline the president. Now, does any of this rise to the level of criminality? I think it's a worthwhile discussion, and I think that I'm very interested to see what Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche at the attorneys at the Department of Justice put together in terms of a possible case that they think they could prove in a court of law against Comey, against Brennan, against whoever, including but not limited to Obama. And if they don't have the goods, they don't have the goods. But we're still talking about them because these, at minimum, are political crimes that need to be recorded in history so that we remember these individuals appropriately. They go down as ignominious figures in American political history, not messiahs as they have so defined themselves. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line. Robert in Bloomingdale.
Good morning. I think they should slowly proceed with this because Clapper and Brennan, they don't have immunity. And I remember when they were testifying in front of Congress, they were lying. They were accused of perjury. So we need an investigation into this. And secondly, even though Obama has immunity because the only way to go after a president is impeachment and a trial by the Senate, I agree with that. But secondly, they need to bring under the Epstein thing, they need to bring in Bill Clinton. And he needs to be questioned under oath like he was under Monica Lewinsky, which got him into a lot of trouble. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Philip in Concordia, Missouri.
Hello, Dan. Welcome back, and thanks for the show. I've got a quick question. The librarian that was fired 2 weeks ago, I believe she takes care of the archives in the library. Had she not been fired, would this information been found in the archives? I wanted to ask you. Maybe I'm confused.
What do you mean? You mean that Carla Hayden, she's the Librarian of Congress that was fired, that Philip's referring to, that she was sitting on these documents and she got fired and all of a sudden they were found? Is that what you're saying?
Is there a connection?
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I
Okay.
hadn't even thought about it. Thanks for the call, Philip. I would tend to doubt it. I would think that the director of national intelligence, who's the point person over all of these IC agencies, if she sends her people out digging, then they're going to get whatever is there that they can find. I can't imagine that. I mean, who knows? I mean, you had Nixon's secretary in the missing minutes on the tape recorder. So, I mean, yeah, it could be an underling. I mean, to some extent, we sort of discussed this the other day. It is a bit surprising that there wasn't an effort by these bad actors to cover their tracks once Kamala's defeat was cemented. It is a bit surprising, which is why I suggested that, maybe all the discussion about, well, of course, any wrongdoing by the FBI or malfeasance by the FBI with respect to the handling of the Epstein matter, well, that all of that, the Epstein files, all of that would be destroyed by these people to cover their own behinds. Well, maybe not. Look what we're seeing here. Russ in Palos Heights.
Thanks, Dan, for having me. With Obama leaving office as of January 20th, and his policy that he had revised as of the previous December 9th, then that would mean that that particular policy was dead upon the transition to the new Trump regime. Doesn't that then mean that the criminality belongs to the CIA director who did not fill in the new CIA director about the complications that Obama had put in place?
Thanks for the call, Russ. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I mean, could Pompeo have moved to have the reassessed assessment reassessed again? Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. Once this was, I mean, I'm now I'm trying to search the recesses of my memory here. Once this whole thing got, took on a life of itself, I suppose it was immaterial at that point because the press was just going to continue to pillory Trump with this phony baloney cooked up reassessment that we've been discussing. And that was the predicate to launch these investigations. And you have these agencies at the operational level involved in it. And now you have new leadership. Well, you didn't have new leadership initially at the FBI. Remember, it took Trump too long in retrospect to fire Comey. It should have been a day one firing. But you have open investigations, though, too. And then, any interference in an open investigation, and then, it's Trump's guy at CIA or Trump's guy at DNI or Trump's guy at FBI is trying to put his finger on the scales of justice and so on and so forth. And that would have generated even more performative hewing and crying from the D.C. press corps. But it is interesting. That's a really good question that Russ from Palos asks about the thinking at the time. I suppose, though, part of the problem was that those Trump officials in that first term, not only are they drinking from a fire hose when they get into these agencies, but then they don't even know what they don't know about what was going on. I mean, look, we're learning new things about the evidence they used and the people that were cut out of the loop. We're learning new things this week about this Russiagate hoax. Larry in Mantino.
Yes, how you doing? I'm calling on the question of presidential immunity. But it's my understanding that the president, when he leaves office, continues to get briefings. And it is known well after President Obama left office, he kept perpetuating the lie of collusion with Russia, knowing full well that there was no collusion there from his reports that he got before. Could he be prosecuted from that, do you think?
Well,
That's all.
Yeah, thanks for the color. I don't think so. I mean, what's the crime? I guess you would have to say that he was taking material. You'd have to prove that first of all there was a criminal conspiracy. Second of all, that it extended beyond Obama's time in office, and maybe even to current day, which I think is an open question, by the way. And third, that Obama was party to that conspiracy, that he took material steps to extend this criminal conspiracy, to aid and abet this criminal conspiracy. is continuing to lie about things that he knew to be false, not under oath, but just, in the public domain. Is that enough to meet sort of an aiding and abetting threshold? Boy, the context, you'd have to see the evidence and really look at the context of that. I think it's a high bar, and the Department of Justice, I assume Pam Bondi, they're going to have, a former president dead to rights, I would think. I don't think you want to overextend yourself here and be made to look silly. You have to have a very strong case that you can succinctly explain to the American public, because any case brought against any of these principles is going to be immediately tried in the public arena long before it ever goes to court. So it better be T's crossed and I's dotted. Jerry, Milwaukee.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. A couple of things. That Wall Street Journal editorial is precisely why several years ago I canceled my subscription after being a loyal subscriber for many, many, many years. I could see those changes coming. But secondly, why are we even talking about all of this? We know no one is going to be prosecuted. Every time somebody brings up a hair about Obama, it's split. Then that split hair is split again. It's split again. It's split again, and finally we have no case. Why don't we focus on Comey and Brennan and get those two scumbags and let them sing about Obama then?
Well, thanks for the call, Jerry. I mean, again, it was a criminal investigation that was initially opened into Comey and Brennan. That's where this started. I mean, that's where we started last weekend after the first document dump. And now it's been expanded, as you heard from Tulsi Gabbard yesterday. All right, we'll take more of your calls. I have to get to two other aspects of this that we haven't gotten to yet. And but this is all very worthwhile. This is not something that we rush past because the D.C. press corps wants us to rush past it. Maybe there's a reason they want us to rush past it. Maybe as per usual, they're not exactly acting in a selfless manner in the interests of the Republic. So we're going to take our time. We're going to savor. And I want to get to what Molly Hemingway said about said D.C. press corps. And, man, this is good stuff. The Tulsi Gabbard revelations about one Hill Dog, Hillary Clinton. That's at 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 80 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that President Trump was informed back in May by the Justice Department that his name appears multiple times in the Jeffrey Epstein files.
The outlet said officials told Trump during a routine briefing that the files contained what they believed was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump. One administration official told the Journal that hundreds of other names are contained in the documents. Trump was also reportedly told the DOJ did not plan to release more documents because they contained child pornography. The new report comes days after the Journal published a story about an alleged birthday letter sent by Trump to Epstein, which led Trump to sue the outlet and its owners for $20 billion. I'm Chris Coraggio.
Illinois State Police are hosting a pair of all-women recruitment events next week in Belleville and Chicago. The events are designed to encourage women to explore the many career paths available as sworn police officers and civilian employees. Both will be held simultaneously on July 31st. The Southern Illinois event will take place at the Southwestern Illinois College campus in Belleville. The Northern Illinois will be held at SX Tennis Village in Chicago. The ISP will share employment information and provide opportunities to meet professionals in various law enforcement specialities. This news update is a service of Quick Delivery Service. When you need same-day delivery, when you need the fastest service, when you need last-minute delivery, go to quickdelivery.com and get a quote right now. That's quickdelivery.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt takes it as a threat, but not much of one.
The threat by Iranian officials to strike him with a drone when he's sunbathing. Yeah, it's a threat, but he doesn't have to pay any attention to it because it's like the older kid holding the little kid at bay with a long outstretched arm while the little kid swings. If they try anything, he will level the place, and they know it.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Is cremation an option you're considering for you or your loved one? At Catholic cemeteries, we offer sacred, permanent places of rest where loved ones can be remembered, prayed for, and visited for generations. Too often, cremated remains are brought home, only to end up in closets, basements, or forgotten on shelves. Memorialization is forever. Honor their life. Preserve your legacy. Visit us today at CatholicCemeteryChicago.org to schedule a free consultation or call 708-236-5490.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Your manufacturing production is only as good as your manufacturing team.
Monarch makes you better, plain and simple. They do an excellent job at recruiting the right people, qualified, experienced, top talent that improve productivity.
Monarch Technical Services has been leading the Chicago staffing industry for manufacturing and engineering since 1987.
Their vetting process is bang on, and their payment terms show just how dedicated to helping they are. You have 6 months to pay the finder's fee, and if for any reason the candidate leaves, the fee ends. Simple.
Monarch's payment terms allow you to make sure employees fit in before fees are paid in full. It's a working partnership that works.
If you're growing your manufacturing team, trust me, call Monarch Technical Services.
Monarch meets every candidate in person to interview and test for specific skills and assesses experience by using blueprint, shop math, part measurement, and CNC program exams. Call 847-342-1221. That's 847-342-1221. Or visit monarchtechnical.com.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
From the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 14 minutes. Outbound is about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 8 minutes. Outbound is about 9 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 12 minutes. Outbound is about 13 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 16 minutes. Outbound is 15 minutes. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 12 minutes. Outbound is 10 minutes. This report is sponsored by Straight Talk Wireless. Don't let data limits hold you back from being the Jeff Master in the family group chat. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get real unlimited data from a reliable 5G network. Straight Talk available at straighttalk.com or Walmart. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds. Chance of strong thunderstorms later. High of 94. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms. Warm and humid. Low of 73. Thunderstorms could cause damaging winds and flash flooding. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560. The Answer.
Get
The latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and we've been discussing and taking your calls on the release of more Russiagate-related documents by Tulsi Gabbard yesterday in the White House briefing that she had to discuss the contents of said documents. I mean, all the focus on former President Obama, understandable, in addition to Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Newland, et al. Anybody at that December 9th meeting. Anybody and everybody. But I got to say, the most enjoyable part of her briefing yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard's, that is, was what she had to say about former First Lady Kankles. Oh, yeah. A September 2020 report by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intel on Russia's attempts to influence the election that she declassified yesterday. The report shows, Gabbard said, Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election, because, of course, he assumed she was going to win. What was some of that information?
The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of serious stuff in there, but I mean, come on. Finally, we have confirmation of Hillary Clinton's psycho-emotional problems, emphasis on psycho, and that she was on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. That rings true. And if we apply the standard, the Michael Wolff standard, and the John Brennan standard, if it rings true, it must be true. That's the standard they apply to Trump. Well, let's apply that to Hillary, the pantsuit princess. That rings true. Psycho-emotional problems and a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. The fact that she was leveraging the State Department for her own political and personal financial ends, well, there's nothing new either. Not only that rings true, we know it's true. But just on the rings true, but there's something else that Brennan said. This from Matt Taibbi's report on the document released yesterday. The assessment was written by just 5 CIA analysts handpicked by Brennan, but even those most favored lieutenants couldn't accept the key pieces of evidence because they were so unsourced and unreliable and discarded fictions. 2 of the 5 went to Brennan to say, quote, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected, unquote, and they were overruled. This by Brennan. The same thing happened when members of the group objected to the Steele material, saying it didn't even meet, quote, basic tradecraft standards. When confronted on that point, Brennan reportedly said, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true? There is the evidentiary standard for your CIA director, John Brennan, and frankly, the entirety of that administration, of the Joe Obama third term, that administration, when Biden was the titular head, and of the D.C. press corps. If it rings true, it must be true. If I want it to, which is the same thing to say, if I want it to be true, then it is true. But that's not the evidentiary standard that people interested in the rule of law can apply. So we can't apply that to them, even though that's precisely the standard they applied in their own words to Trump. And that implicates the D.C. press corps as well, which is why they're telling people that this is a big nothing burger and just, let's just move along already. Tulsi Gabbard is... Well, she was accused of being a Russian asset by one Hillary Clinton. Maybe Hillary was just heavily tranquilized that day and didn't know what she was saying. Presidential debate. Tulsi Gabbard. She's faced the same foundation-free accusations as Trump has. Not to the same extent, of course, but of the same variety. When the hunted become the hunters, as we've been saying since these appointments were made. Molly Hemingway on the D.C. press corps. The recent revelations about the origins of the Russian collusion hoax against the American people are the biggest story in America right now. It's the biggest scandal in our history, and yet look at how most media outlets are handling the news, ignoring and downplaying. The reason why they're trying to bury this explosive story is obvious. Our corporate media were active and willing agents in this seditious conspiracy. They certainly can't report on the fact that they were involved in these crimes against the country. Every time the Washington Post, CNN, New York Times, Margaret Brennan, The Atlantic, etc., lie and say the story is not a big deal, they are perpetuating their seditious conspiracy. Creative minds should think about what legal exposure they have for their role in this. Clapper, Comey, Brennan, Obama, Biden are all out of office, but they could not have run their seditious conspiracy without their co-conspirators in the media. Every single one of the worst actors in the media are all still there. Margaret Brennan, Jake Tapper, etc. Perhaps when, say, Margaret Brennan or Jake Tapper, New York Times, Washington Post, etc., perpetuate the long-running seditious conspiracy, their roles should be addressed. Their work attempting to cover up the crimes of their co-conspirators in the Russian collusion hoax is not journalism. If the fictional story that Trump colluded with Russia deserved to be at the top of every single news program in every newspaper for 18 months, how much more should the true story of top Democrat operatives and media conspiring to take Trump down be covered? Highly recommend for anyone who hasn't read this, meticulously reported by Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times reporter. MSM, mainstream media, ignored this for weeks for obvious reasons. She's talking about, a detailed dive into exactly what she was describing, the documentation that implicates all of the parties she mentioned and many others. Yes, but doesn't it ring true? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line and text line. Jerome in Palos Hills.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I just wanted to ask you, what do you think that I've seen that ABC News locally and nationally, like World News Tonight, didn't cover anything about Obama and, Gabbard talking about referring to the Justice Department. And usually they can spin stuff pretty good, but they didn't even cover it last night.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the call, Jerome. Just more evidence to support Molly Hemingway's characterization of the D.C. press corps and the bind therein. We can't cover it. Don't talk about it. No big deal. Nothing to see. Please move along, because the more people focus on it, the more they might start having uncomfortable questions or look back at the reporting from all of these outlets at the time and say, well, wait a second. You bear some responsibility for this hoax that was perpetrated. And by the way, I like that Molly Hemingway keeps using the phrase crimes against the country, a collusion hoax against the American people. Remember, yes, Trump is a victim, but It's really a crime against the republic, political and potentially criminal crimes against the republic that were committed by these people, including the members of the press corps. It's right and proper to keep your focus on the electorate. This is bigger than Trump in terms of who they have wronged. Jordan in Antioch.
Good morning, Dan. Yeah, I want to see how far they go with this. Forget about Obama. You're not going to get Obama on anything. But what you can get is every single person that's the supporting cast in this. And if you do that, you're going to make everybody think twice about doing this again, seriously. But there has to be serious repercussions. But I want to know how far this goes. Because like you said about the media and everything, if everybody remembers right, this is the catalyst that started the entire thing. Once this failed, all the trials started, right? The Letitia James and the Alvin Bragg and the ones down south about elections. That's where this all started. This whole thing started here. So I want to see them go deep. I want to see cross communications. I want them to look into who was communicating with who in the media. And I'd be willing to bet you right now, there's a whole lot of media people right now sweating, wondering, hoping that whoever they communicated with in the State Department or intelligence deleted their email, and they're dying because they can't pick up a phone to call because they know that somebody's going to check their phone records, which I love. Sweat. I hope every one of them is just sweating. But I want to see how far this goes. I want to see who is involved. I want to see. I hope they just dig into everything and forget Obama. You're not going to get him, but you can get everybody that supported him if this is an actual thing.
Well, thanks for the call, Jordan. I assume. I mean, the impetus is pretty clear, and so I assume that Bondi and her team will be digging as deep as they can. And per Gabbard, does it include Obama? Yes, correct. It includes Obama. So turn over every rock. There's no need to exonerate anyone at this point, or to concede that someone is ungettable, in my view. Not like you're out to get, but that someone is sort of above any sort of review and reproach just because he's a former president. As we learn from all of those people who were prosecuting President Trump, no one is above the law. That's what they told us. Well, that necessarily includes Barack Obama because he is someone, and no one is above the law. So let's see. Let's see what the Department of Justice put together. I'm not in a rush. Tony in Downers Grove.
Hey, Dan. You said it. They don't want to do anything stupid and look foolish, meaning the Trump administration and Pam Bondi, because it's going to be tried in the court of opinion. So this is just a redo of everything we've seen since 2016. What positive stories do we see over and over again about the Trump administration? None. What negativity stories do we see? Every day. So I don't see how this turns out in a positive way in the court of opinion, because when you have every mainstream media outlet pounding on negativity, how do you overcome that? But they can certainly pound away at the Epstein files, right? But nothing about this. This is just under the rug, and that's the way it goes.
Well, thanks for the call, Tony. I know Tony from Downers Grove is always a bit fatalistic, but then there's the reality on the ground on other issues where they've been just as negative. That's just as one-sided in terms of the D.C. press corps coverage. Remember something, in the digital age, the D.C. press corps is no longer the be-all, end-all. There are X accounts and podcasts that have bigger audiences than cable and network news program, quote-unquote news programs. It's not the end-all, be-all. Number two, the American people have wised up on a range of issues, and actually sort of we're always there, but are feeling more comfortable to be out and proud about their views on things like border security? Has the D.C. press corps been lauding the administration about their border security policies? Attaboy, President Trump. You want to show me those stories from the same outlets we're discussing? Of course not. And yet a supermajority of the American public supports what he's doing when it comes to border security and removing people in this country illegally who pose public safety threats. How about men and women's sports? How is that going for the left? A Tiny Dancer is trying to carve out a lane for himself to run for president based on the seminal statement that he made the other day on Megyn Kelly's podcast. Boys and girls are different. Wow. What courage. So who's winning that argument? The Lavender Bund and the identitarian left? And it's because why? Because the D.C. press corps has handled those issues even-handedly? Or they've been part of the identitarian mob, shaming and canceling and offering the most ridiculous, patently false angles into these issues. It's unclear whether men have a physical advantage over women when it comes to sports. Really? You want me to show you the AP story on that? So they platformed all kinds of lies across all kinds of issues, and yet here we are. So we don't just sort of concede to falsehoods. We don't just whimper into the darkness because we have known enemies in the D.C. press corps and in the new Marxist Party. We put in the fight. And a lot more times than I think some fatalistic conservatives think, we win. Certainly we do when we put in the fight. We don't when we fold. That's when we lose. That's when we lose ground. And, Trump arrived on the scene because the Republican Party had been a party that surrendered at the first sign of trouble on a range of issues, economic and cultural. And part of Trump's appeal is that, no. I mean, he's not always right. He hasn't handled it always the best way. He's moved around on some of these issues, economic and cultural. But he is always going to put in the fight for the position he has taken. And that provides clarity and direction and informed discussion. So, no, I'm not willing to concede that this is all for naught. Owen in Willowbrook.
Hi, Dan. Dan, I think what the DOJ has to do, it's not just a matter of getting convictions. They have to go after these people because of the rewards that they reaped for what they did. And the way they do that is they don't just go after the weakest links. They go after the weakest link's family. Look what the DOJ did to General Flynn. And I think you start with McCabe, who was the lowest link in that meeting, because I think he's probably the weakest link, and I think he would roll. And I truly believe that family, I mean, that's what the DOJ does. And I hope this DOJ is as vicious as the DOJ was under Obama and Biden.
Yeah. Thanks for calling. Yeah. I mean, throw in MSNBC as maybe an unindicted or indicted co-conspirator. I mean, the entire cast at MSNBC is either these former officials that were party to this or, professional Russia Today quality propagandists who lob softballs up for the John Brennans and the Andy McCabe's and the Susan Rices of the world, or the Jim Comeys. Yeah. I would like to see a aggressive DOJ investigation, all stones overturned within the bounds of the law. And we'll get to that with Andy McCarthy at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, within the bounds of the law, because, there's some federal statutes that were used against President Trump that potentially have applicability with respect to those who pursued Trump illicitly. Tom in Blue Island.
Hey, Dan, good morning. I understand Tony's frustration that called a few minutes ago. So as a lifelong Cubs fan, I was devastated when they blew it in '84, devastated when they blew it in 2003, and when it looked like they were going to blow it in 2016, I turned the game off. I didn't even see the Cubs win the World Series. The reason I bring that up is we've been through the Durham report, we've been through Russia, and I think one of the big things about the Epstein situation is Trump supporters, Republicans, whatever group you want to put them in, saw another circumstance where we were promised, if you want to call it justice, and then it was Lucy with the football, pulling it out from pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. And so all that to say, I believe this is something different. I also believe Trump and his administration are aware that they can't come up with a big nothing burger after all this. And that's why I think we're going to see something different here.
Thanks for the call, Tom.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
When age-related health issues arise, don't just treat the body, treat the soul. For over 130 years, Lutheran Life has provided nonprofit, Christ-centered care for seniors. Arlington Heights, Ottawa, Bloomington, and Crown Point. 4 Lutheran Life communities to serve all your needs for assisted living, memory care, nursing, and rehab. Find out how by visiting LutheranLifeCommunities.org today. That's LutheranLifeCommunities.org.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
He commends Colombia for agreeing to do what is right. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump wrote that, hailing it on Truth Social, the settlement with the university to restore federal grants canceled over destructive pro-Palestinian protests on campus.
Colombia agreeing to pay out more than $220 million for violating Jewish students' civil rights, and they're pledging to reverse discriminatory practices. University President Claire Shipman says this in a statement. As part of the settlement, the university has not admitted wrongdoing. We are not, however, denying the very serious and painful challenges our institution is faced with anti-Semitism.
That's Fox's Griff Jenkins at the White House. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche could meet with Ghislaine Maxwell as soon as today. She's in prison for her role in sex trafficking underage girls with Jeffrey Epstein, who committed suicide awaiting trial. Maxwell's also been subpoenaed to talk to a congressional committee. But in the push for more Epstein files to be made public, a federal judge denied an attempt to unseal grand jury documents. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal reports.
The judge said typically a release like this would only be done to assist other lawyers or help in another case. Separately, Fox has confirmed a report that the Justice Department informed the president this past spring that his name does appear in Epstein-related legal documents and files.
FBI Director Kash Patel says the media keeps trying to undermine the president with smears and lies, and that story's no different. Another court blocking the president's order to end birthright citizenship, this time from appeals judges, calling it unconstitutional, as the president, by order, tries to stop kids born to parents here illegally from being U.S. citizens. Now updates into an infamous illegal immigrant.
A federal judge prohibiting officials from taking Kilmar Abrego Garcia into immediate ICE custody should he be released from jail in Tennessee while awaiting trial. A separate magistrate judge also pausing for 30 days in order allowing the 29-year-old from El Salvador to be released on bail.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. Abrego Garcia is charged with human trafficking after he was returned by court order from El Salvador, where he was wrongfully deported in March. America's listening to Fox.
Good morning. It's 81 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. A 2-year-old girl is safe after she was abducted at gunpoint by her biological mother and 2 other people on the south side. Police say the trio broke into a home early yesterday in the 4800 block of South Michigan Avenue and took Autumn Shelley. They fled in a stolen SUV. The child was found safe and uninjured last night. There's no word of any arrests. The city of Chicago is investing $40 million in grant funding to modernize 7 homeless shelters in the city. Mayor Johnson announced that this is the largest local shelter capital investment in Chicago's history. The funding will support major improvements to more than 750 permanent shelter beds in Chicago, increasing ADA accessibility and modernizing aging infrastructure and other major systems. The capital investments span 7 neighborhoods across north, south, and west sides. A man is being cited following a crash that left 2 Chicago police officers hurt on the southwest side. Authorities say a man was driving early yesterday when he ran a red light and hit 2 Chicago police officers in a marked squad car in the 5100 block of South California Avenue. Both officers were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. The man was taken into custody and sent to the hospital in fair condition. He was issued 4 citations. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP.
A couple years ago, I was in the bathroom at the airport when I dropped my smartphone in the toilet. Not smart. I was multitasking when I should have been focused on the job at hand. Embarrassing, but I'm not alone. According to Google, 7 million other multitaskers accidentally dropped their phones into the bowl last year. A gentle reminder that right now you can get yourself a brand new Samsung Galaxy A36 absolutely free with a $35 plan from Pure Talk. The A36 comes with scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass and a battery that'll last all day, along with unlimited talk, text, and data on America's most dependable 5G network. In other words, it's tough and smart. Something to think about next time you're multitasking in the necessary. Just dial pound 250, say keyword Mike Rowe to get your free phone today. You can make the switch in just 10 minutes. That's pound 250. Say Mike Rowe to switch to a no-nonsense smartphone and a company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Golf legend Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear, tennis star Rafael Nadal, and the late great Kobe Bryant. What do they all have in common? They're all recipients of stem cell therapy, using your own body's healing properties to find relief from sports injuries and chronic joint pain. You can receive the same therapy at QC Kinetics in Naperville, Morton Grove, Oak Brook Terrace, Gurnee, and Crystal Lake. QC Kinetics, regenerative medicine. You've been hearing their ads on the station for 2 years, and the response has been so exciting. So many AM 560 listeners are getting relief from chronic joint pain thanks to stem cell therapy from QC Kinetics. 92% of patients report satisfaction. Even Joe Rogan loves it. If you're considering surgery, stop now and contact QC Kinetics. It doesn't cost anything for a second opinion. Weekend appointments are available. This could be life-changing. Call today to learn more and see if you're a candidate. Call 312-809-5955 and tell them Dan Prof sent you when you do. That number again is 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
From the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 13 minutes. Outbound is about 13 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 16 minutes. Outbound, 13 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 26 minutes. Outbound is about 15 minutes. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 31 minutes. That's due to a vehicle fire taking away a right lane. That's going to be inbound between the Skyway and 59. Traffic is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now checking your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, high of 94. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, low of 73. Thunderstorms could cause damaging winds and flash flooding. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I want to go back to an assessment that Matt Taibbi, Racket News is his outlet, an assessment he offered on the intelligence assessment on Megyn Kelly's podcast yesterday after the second tranche of documents was dumped by one director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Here's Taibbi on the meaning of the new information contained in the documents that were released yesterday, for which Tulsi Gabbard held a White House briefing.
Yeah, and that's really the striking set of documents is you can see on December 9th, there is an order from the Director of National Intelligence Office basically giving out directions on how to put together a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request. But as they're giving out the assignment, the homework is already published in the New York Times and the Washington Post. In other words, they hadn't even started work yet, or group work, on this assessment, and they were already telling everybody in the media what the conclusion was. So the entire work period of this had to be a sham. Essentially, they pre-concluded what was going to be in the assessment and started leaking in advance.
So just political skullduggery, political crimes against the Republic by Team Obama, or some federal crimes included with those political crimes? For an answer to that question, we're pleased to be joined by Andy McCarthy, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of Manhattan, contributing editor at National Review, and author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. Andy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dan.
So let's dive right in. The questions surrounding the criminal referral, which Tulsi Gabbard said, yes, includes the former president, Obama, that is. Do we have a basis for a criminal investigation into all parties that were at that December 9th meeting based on what we know about this 180 with the intelligence assessment and how it was used?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I would think that if you had a criminal referral, one of the things they would have discussed was a crime, like a crime that would be prosecutable today. They've thrown the word treason around, which is, that's just demagogic because treason obviously doesn't apply to this situation. Treason is levying war against the United States or lending aid and comfort to wartime enemies of the United States. So that, that doesn't even, it's not even in the same zip code. And what I've always maintained about this, I don't think any of these revelations are new. I think it's papering what we already knew. I wrote a book about this 8 years ago that laid out Obama's role in it. And I believe then and I believe now that this was the worst political dirty trick in American history. And the reason it was effective was that it used as a pretext to spy on Trump and his campaign and his administration in order, in a very political way, to try to, detract from his effectiveness. But the pretext for that was something that was a legitimate investigation and legitimate for the government to do, which is the investigation of Russia's meddling in the election. There's a lot of evidence of that. Now, I should preface that by saying, as I said in the book, I don't think Russia's meddling in the election made any difference. Russia's been meddling in American politics since the Soviet Union, going back decades. We meddle in their politics. None of it's been very effective historically. But, the clip that you just played from Taibbi, what they were mainly talking about up till December 8th in that line of the emails that Gabbard has been stressing is Russian cyber operations against election infrastructure, which would be things like voting machines and state voting rolls and that sort of stuff. And there was a lot of evidence going back to 2014 that the Russians were conducting reconnaissance and looking for weaknesses in the system. What they focused on after Trump won was a different kind of cyber operation, which was the hacking of the Democratic National Committee and other stuff that the Russians were doing, like this idiotic bot messaging that you saw online. And they didn't make that up after December 9th. If you remember, Dan, the Obama Justice Department and FBI applied for a FISA warrant against Carter Page in October, and they basically wrote the document in September. And their theory in that document is that the Russians were meddling in the 2016 election, and they had hacked the DNC. And the question then was whether Trump was working with them or not. They were, they relied on this Steele dossier, which turns out to be completely bogus and was manufactured by the Clinton campaign, to come up with this theory that Trump was colluding with Russia. But the question of whether Russia was doing stuff was not, I don't think that was disputable.
Yeah, but that's right. But that's not the issue. I mean, the issue where this goes off the rails is this is that last part about the collusion that opened up Pandora's box and allowed all of the malevolent actors in the D.C. press corps and inside the Beltway generally to have a feeding frenzy at the expense of Trump's first 2+ years of his presidency, and arguably at the expense of his presidency. I mean, this is why you have the phrase being bandied about by Gabbard and others, I think appropriately so, purposely subverting the will of the people. And it's funny because I'm old enough to remember when a former president named Trump was criminally charged with engaging in a conspiracy to deprive the American people of their rights, 18 U.S.C. 241, conspired to discount votes and prevent people from voting because he spread false claims about the 2020 election. That was one of those Jack Smith prosecutions. So, knowingly spreading false information for the purposes of subverting the will of the people and the rights of the people, the right to vote, the rights of the principal, in this case, the president, there's nothing that veers into the criminal possibly here?
Well, I'd say a couple of things about that. First, I'm old enough to remember, because it only happened last year, that Trump took a very strong position that presidents have absolute immunity from prosecution for the acts that they take in connection with their presidency. So, I'm a little bit surprised to hear Gabbard say that she's referring Obama for prosecution when Trump's position is that Obama, at least unless Trump has changed his position is that presidents can't be prosecuted for the stuff they do as president.
Well, right.
And
but
you're right that they brought that civil rights case, but we all criticized it because it was a preposterous case. That having been said,
well, I'm not saying the two cases are parallel, though. Yeah.
But I said this morning on television. When they talk about treason, I think that's crazy talk. I don't understand why they haven't talked about conspiracy against civil rights. It doesn't have to be just the civil right of voting, which is, I think, the point that you were about to make. And I would just point out that when John Durham investigated this for 4 years, I looked at this again this morning. He laid out a number of crimes that he looked into, and one of them was the only one I can think of that would fit this situation. Now, you have all kinds of immunity problems and you have all kinds of statute of limitations problems, but at least that civil rights statute addresses people who are acting under the color of law, that's public officials, to subvert people's civil rights. Now, you have to come up with a theory of what the civil right is that was subverted, and that may be why Durham didn't go that route, but at least that's in the ballpark of what we're talking about here.
What about where this started with the first tranche of documents released? The suggestion that there's real legal exposure. I mean, this is not the first time this suggestion has been made, but it's being revisited, and there has to be sort of some popular support for pursuing these cases in order to get them moving again, I suppose. But the idea that Comey and Brennan, at least those two, have potential exposure. There's a circumstantial case to be made that they perjured themselves and maybe conspired with each other to commit perjury.
Yeah, I think the problem that you have with that, when you get away from civil rights conspiracy and you're talking about what Gabbard tried to establish in the first bunch of discovery, was that they had basically made false statements in 2016. And, that's 9 years ago, so the statute of limitations ran on it like 4 years ago. But the hook that she tried to use was Brennan's testimony in 2023 before the House. And the problem that she has with a case like that, and I mean, look, Gabbard's not a lawyer.
Right.
She referred it, this stinks to high heaven, so she referred it to the Justice Department and for them to sort it out, which is fine. But I think what the Justice Department would say is, in 2016, Brennan sent these emails which showed that he was championing the Steele dossier. He was agreeing with Comey that the Steele dossier should go in the intelligence community assessment. What he testified in 2023 was that the CIA institutionally opposed putting the Steele dossier in the intelligence assessment. And the problem is that testimony's true. Now, Brennan may have been trying to conceal his own personal role, but he carefully testified in 2023 that as an institution, the CIA was bitterly opposed to including the intelligence assessment or including in the intelligence assessment the Steele dossier. That's not only true. The paper trail that Gabbard put out shows that Brennan's own deputy and other analysts in the CIA wanted no part of the dossier, but they also succeeded in keeping it out.
Yes.
So, the big problem with this is when Brennan wrote his email in 2016, he was talking about his personal opinion, which was that the dossier should be included. When he testified in 2023, he was talking about the CIA as an institution, and he didn't refer to his own position, and he wasn't confronted with any of his emails.
One of the other arguments advanced is that this conspiracy to commit perjury, this conspiracy to subvert the will of the people persists to this day. So it's an ongoing conspiracy, and thus you can avoid some statute of limitations issues, and you potentially can fold in people like President Obama out of office if there is evidence, no idea, if there's evidence that he participated in this ongoing conspiracy to deprive people of their rights.
Yeah, I guess the problem with this is that the idea of subverting the will of the people is a very vague concept, whereas the civil rights statutes require you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think this is probably, Durham's a very good, experienced prosecutor, and I think this may be part of the reason he didn't go down that road. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there is a known right that was violated knowingly by people who were acting under the color of law. Subvert the will of the American people is not, in that category. They'd have to tighten that up. And, look, the other problems they have is it's not like this didn't succeed. Now, you don't have to show that a conspiracy was successful in order to prove a conspiracy, but it helps. And in this instance, Trump did win the election, despite all the machinations of these people. He won. And, how much did they subvert the process when Mueller has this 3 or 4 year investigation, whatever it was, which obviously drove Trump crazy while it was underway. But when he finally files the final report, the finding is that there's no collusion between Trump and Russia. So in the end, he was vindicated. That's not to say that his political enemies have done anything other than disgrace themselves. I mean, this was a terrible political dirty trick. They exploited the law enforcement and intelligence apparatus of the government to try to derail a presidency. And, historically, I think this is going to go down as one of the most disgraceful episodes in modern American history. But as Durham said, the fact that people do disgusting political things is not necessarily a criminal offense. To come up with a crime as opposed to something we can all condemn for a bunch of other reasons, you have to have something that you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that is within the statute of limitations and is a cognizable crime. And I think that's the problem the Justice Department's going to have.
And let me ask you this. Even something, because it's something we were discussing a bit earlier in the show with listeners, even if President Obama is found to have said at that December 9th meeting or in advance of it, I want you to do a redo of that intelligence assessment, and I want you to say that that Trump, or that Putin is colluding with Trump, or Putin is actively aiding and abetting the Trump campaign, or aided and abetted the Trump campaign. He's the reason that Trump won. I want you to say that in the intelligence assessment. I don't care if you think it's true or not. I don't care if it's true or not. I want you to do it. That would not be criminal. He would have presidential immunity in that case.
Well, according to Trump, he would. According to what Trump's theory in the Supreme Court was, if the president takes a position or takes an action that's within the broad ambit of his executive power, then a court can't look into that. Now, he can be impeached over it.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There are other remedies to it. But what that case is about, Dan, is not to say that this kind of behavior is good. What it's about is to say what's the appropriate way to address it. And what the court basically says, now they didn't go as far as Trump, but they went pretty close. What they basically say is this isn't for judges and prosecutors to get into. We're not the check on presidential abuse of power. That's on Capitol Hill.
This
That's
is
not here.
This is what I was trying to communicate. The three buckets test. The first being the core constitutional. The second being where you have absolute immunity, presumptive immunity with powers that are complementary to the core constitutional powers, presumptive immunity,
Right.
and then no immunity to non-official acts. Basically, you say that whatever you basically not, this is not absolute because this is a framework and there are going to be exceptions. Context matters. But what I was trying to impress upon people is basically what a president does in office, he has immunity for. And so the only way you're going to get a president is to get him as a former president doing something as a private citizen and not as the president, short of, actively organizing a break-in at the Watergate Hotel or actually shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue. Short of that, it has to be things that he does as a private citizen.
Yeah, well, so here's what I just qualify. I push back a little bit on that.
Okay.
And I hate citing the Bragg case because it's such a preposterous case. But let's say that there actually was something criminal about the checks that Trump wrote while he was president for Michael Cohen. I think everybody would agree that when Trump paid Michael Cohen that money after Cohen had laid out the money for the non-disclosure agreement, right? If we pretend that that was criminal somehow, because I don't think it was, but if let's just for argument's sake say so, that was a totally private transaction. So even though Trump was president, he wasn't acting as president at the time. He was paying a private debt to Cohen. So I think something like that, even though he was president, and even though he may have signed some of those checks in the White House, for all we know, that would still be something I think that a president, even in power, could be indicted for. Now, he couldn't be prosecuted for it while he was in office, and the Justice Department would probably take the position that you couldn't even indict him while he was in office. You'd have to wait until he was out of office. But I think that kind of completely private conduct, even if the guy was president at the time, you could reach it. But anything that would be within the ambit of his executive authority, that he's an action that he's taking as president, I think is going to be very, very hard to prosecute. And this distinction between, who the hell knows what's the difference between a core responsibility and the outer ambit of executive authority? I mean, we could argue about that, till the end of time.
Right. Well, that's right, because you have the executive overreach because the legislative isn't doing something he wants, and then you have all those dynamics. But the bottom line is, with in this case, Obama doing anything, almost anything under the sun, under the umbrella of acting in the interests of America's national security, which is certainly how he would characterize this whole intelligence assessment thing. I mean, he's untouchable.
Yeah, that's right. And especially not only it's national security against a hostile foreign power that arguably is trying to intervene in American politics. I mean, there's not a court in the world that would go near that.
Andy McCarthy is a former chief assistant U.S. attorney, Southern District of New York, contributing editor at National Review, author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. Maybe worthwhile for everybody to go back and read Ball of Collusion to just have the backstory that we're getting regurgitated, at least in significant measure right now. Andy, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate your time and insights.
Thank you, Dan.
And Andy joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, it's Sean Thompson here for Level 10 Coating. You've been hearing the ads on AM 560 for months. Listeners love the product. Shiny new garage floors. And here's the thing. If you grow up in Chicago, you know a garage isn't just for parking cars. It's a sanctuary for yourself. Sometimes you could throw a kid's party there. Sometimes you can watch a game with your friends. But it doesn't have to be a cracked, dry, ugly cement floor with all dust on it. It can be a product you love. That's what Level 10 Coating delivers. Level 10 Coatings makes it someplace you'll want to be all the time. Level 10 Coatings, you can call now for a free quote at 855-510-2628. The number again, 855-510-2628. it's not just garage floors either. It's anywhere you want to make the cement feel more than cement at level10coatings.com. That's level, the number 10, coatings.com.
Big or small, we coat them all. Level 10 Coatings, your custom concrete coating solution.
Charlie, is there something better we can do with all these pallets, OCC, and shrink wrap? It just keeps building up.
Well, we have a trash company that's supposed to haul it away. I guess they're not keeping up.
Well, maybe we should shop around. All this paper, plastic, metal, this can all be recycled. We spend way too many hours just moving it around.
Actually, my buddy's company uses Combined Resources in Addison. They pick up recyclables all over Chicago and safely dispose of it. They have this huge recycling center. Apparently, it saves them a lot in waste expenses, too.
Well, let's give Combined Resources a call.
Since 1986, Combined Resources, Inc. has been your one-stop shop recycling and sustainability partner. CRI's programs reduce labor and hauling costs, boost rebate returns, and help your company go green. If your company has paper, cardboard, plastic, pallets, and metal that you want cleared and recycled, CRI will take care of it all and help you meet sustainability goals. Call 877-CRI-PLAS and learn how CRI supports smarter recycling at combinedresources.us. Combined Resources, Inc., turning waste into worth, one resource at a time.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, yesterday, Liberation Day for American AI. We'll talk to Jessica Malusian, Director of the Center for Technology and Innovation at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, about the AIEO. At 7:37, now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 81 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. The White House says former President Obama tried to sabotage President Trump after his 2016 election victory. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said newly declassified documents confirm those allegations.
The Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard claims the election report is troubling.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false.
She added that they withheld the truth from the American people. Leavitt said the documents also further confirmed that there was no collusion between President Trump and Russia. In a rare response earlier this week, Obama's office called the allegations outrageous, bizarre, and a weak attempt at distraction. And the Fantastic Four First Steps is expected to earn between $100 and $110 million at the domestic box office in its debut this weekend. News is a service of In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday morning at 7:30 on AM 560. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His Word each Sunday morning right here on AM 560 The Answer. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Charlie Kirk trusts the administration to get it right.
You know my opinion about Epstein. I would love to see the DOJ move to unseal the grand jury testimony. I think this would be a big win, and I would love to see that. I'm going to trust my friends, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, my friend Pam Bondi, all these guys. I'm going to trust them to solve it. Ball is in their court. That's it.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Weekdays at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity of a permanent resting place where they'll be remembered for generations. Visit us today, CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
Hey, this is Honest Eddie from the car lot down the street.
Hi, Honest Eddie.
Is it true your showrooms don't have any employees?
That's right. Hasselus mattress showrooms are employee-free.
Now, don't you be dishonest with Honest Eddie.
It's true. Give the mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy. And through Monday, get additional instant savings of $248 off Sealy Posturepedic and Beauty Rest.
Son, to make it in sales, you gotta pressure people. Like, what's your budget? Or, I know it's the most expensive model, but trust me, it's the right one for you. And what's it gonna take to get you into a Sealy Posturepedic or Beauty Rest today?
But that's hassling customers.
Yeah, so?
Our store is called Hassle Less Mattress.
Just change the name. How about Wacky Westerns?
Uh-oh, you're breaking up. Gotta go.
Wait, no, let me talk to my manager.
Hasseless Mattress, 100% Eddie free. Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at hasseless.com.
Okay, this basement is unreal. You've got a bar, theater seats. What is this place?
This is my escape. Forever Remodeling custom designed the whole thing. Not 1 square foot is wasted.
Man, mine still has a treadmill and a folding table.
Their designers asked a ton of questions. I wanted the ultimate game day setup. They delivered. Bar, big screen, sound that shakes the walls.
Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM560 sent you.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Verne Interchange, 13 minutes. Outbound is about 13 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 16 minutes. Outbound, 13 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 26 minutes. Outbound is about 15 minutes. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Need new blinds? At Blindster.com, they offer guaranteed low prices, guaranteed satisfaction, free samples, and free shipping. At Blindster, they take the fear out of ordering custom blind shades and shutters so you can do it yourself and save big. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, highs reaching 94. Tonight stays mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, lows dropping to 73. Thunderstorms may cause flash floods and strong winds in spots. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So there was other things that happened yesterday in addition to Tulsi Gabbard's release of Russiagate documents and briefing on the topic, which we've spent the good majority of the morning discussing. But let's bring in this other matter of importance. Yesterday, the White House proposed a collection of policies to ensure that China doesn't win the race for AI supremacy. The 3 pillars of the president's policy, AI policy. Pillar 1, accelerate AI innovation. That means removing red tape and onerous regulation, protect free speech and American values. Pillar number 2, build an American AI infrastructure. That's the power grid issue. And pillar number 3, lead in international AI diplomacy and security. Make sure that America is the standard setter and that the standards are consistent with American values and not the values of the Chinese Communist Party, for example. So the question is the framework that was presented and the tension in our federalist society between federal rulemaking and state and local rulemaking. And there was no state-level AI regulation ban included in what was rolled out by the White House yesterday. So does the framework that was presented advance the flag for America when it comes to AI innovation, the brave new world that is upon us? For more on this, some insights, please be joined by Jessica Malusian, Director of the Center for Technology and Innovation with the Competitive Enterprise Center. Jessica, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure to be with you.
So, your take on what the Trump administration presented yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall this is a really great course correction. You know, not that long ago, the Biden EO, Executive Order on Artificial Intelligence, was such a sort of safety-obsessed, fear-based document, right, that talked about, oh my gosh, these are all the things that could go wrong, and what are we going to do about it? Not that shouldn't be part of the conversation, but unfortunately, under Biden, that seemed to be sort of the whole conversation. And I think that misses the mark here, because not only is it so important that America be the global leader on this, and that in 20 years the whole world is running on American AI, not Chinese AI, for some of the reasons you mentioned, but also, you know, this AI technology is going to be fantastic for people. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be questions that come up, but there's also going to be a ton of economic efficiency. There's going to be cures for cancer and other diseases. There's going to be environmental benefits. There's going to be so much good that comes out of this if we can get it right. And I think that yesterday's announcement was really much more focused on that. So for me, when I looked at it at first, I thought, wow, what a turnaround, just generally in tone from where we were a year or two ago.
Well, and it seems to me that one of the big challenges, is, just in terms of this race, as it were, is the power challenge, the energy challenge, and building the sort of grid capacity for AI development. And I know Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, has talked a bit about that, rolling back some of the regulations on energy and deploying, all of the assets that America has, really sort of unleashing them, not deploying them. They're not the government's assets, but, encouraging America to be energy independent. And that certainly includes, it predominates actually, the fossil fuel industry. But so what in the action plan from the White House do we see with respect to the continued need for energy infrastructure to be built? Is there anything other than get to it that the White House offers?
Well, I think that's a fair summary, certainly. Get to it is certainly the energy behind it. But I think specifically the report directs the department, the EPA, to say, if you need to set aside some of the clean air, clean water, NEPA restrictions that really hobble all sorts of businesses getting the power and the energy they need, right? Like I love this for AI, but I would encourage the administration to look at this more generally. And sufficient power is really the first ingredient to all commerce in the U.S. So maybe this will lead to a broader look at why we're sort of why we put ourselves on an energy starvation diet. And I know that there's been environmental concerns and special interest on that pushing, but I think under this administration, it is really important to say, what are the fundamentals for artificial intelligence success? And those data centers are going to take a lot of power. And I think that where we are now is that all power is on the table. As you mentioned, oil and gas, certainly, but also There's a lot of interest in nuclear power now. I think people are much more comfortable with viewing that as a safe and zero emissions option. And then, I think there'll be a bit more of a tussle with the wind and the solar. How much does that stuff really make sense without subsidies remains to be answered. And also it's a moving target, right? I mean, that technology, they've been saying that's about to take off for a long time. I don't know. But I like that all things are now on the table and that the EPA is being directed to say, okay, enough of the red tape. Like, let's get this, as you say, let's get this going.
So blind spots you see, things that concern you about this burgeoning industry, this burgeoning sector, and that you don't feel perhaps were addressed as substantively as they might have been.
I think that it's probably more on Congress than the executive branch. There was a little language in this that said, directing federal agencies who have AI spending, to consider what the state level AI regulatory environment is. And that points to a really big problem with AI right now, is that we have all these states rushing to regulate. Congress hasn't acted. And a lot of what's coming out of those state legislatures is not good policy for AI. And the point is this, even if it were all reasonable policy, you don't want a patchwork of 50 different regulatory regimes that companies have to comply with here, because I can tell you that the Chinese companies operating over there aren't complying with 50 different regulatory regimes. It's very costly. It makes it very difficult on U.S. entrepreneurs. And also, it's only the big guys that the government says it's worried about in tech on one hand, but they're creating this environment where only the big guys are going to be able to comply with that. We don't want that. We want little tech and big tech out there winning the race for U.S. AI. So I think at some point Congress is going to have to act and preempt. I think that's a blind spot in this plan. And I would also caution that while getting rid of the sort of woke DEI stuff that was associated with the Biden EO is a good general direction to move, the idea that you're going to be able to certify these models as unbiased, that's a very subjective question. It also runs up against First Amendment concerns. It's a really messy area. And I would just advise that rather trying to regulate it from the left or the right, probably best to let these companies fight it out in the market and let users decide what they trust and what they feel is too biased to be trusted.
Yeah, I was going to raise the specter of the chatbots that have ideological dispositions. John Lott wrote about it recently. David Sachs, the Trump administration's AI and crypto panjandrum, said, quoting David Sachs, "We believe AI systems should operate free of ideological bias and avoid pushing socially engineered agendas. We've introduced several proposals to ensure AI stays truth-seeking and trustworthy." Yeah, I mean, that's I like David Sachs, but that is free of ideological bias is an impossibility because human beings are not free of ideological bias. And the whole pronouncement from somebody who has the working title of czar is a bit Orwellian to me. And so, I completely agree with you. And it seems to me, now I know AI is more powerful. This is the next technological revolution. But I mean, I'm old enough to remember the same sort of discussions when we were still getting used to email and the interweb and people, this is the Wild West on social media. People are saying all kinds of things that are untrue, and we need to have some minders there to make sure that everybody speaks only the truth and everybody is completely unbiased. And these silly utopian ideas we have about human interaction, whether it's interpersonally on social media or in connection with AI, it just seems to me this is the same dynamic playing itself out with a different technology.
You're exactly correct. This is the same sort of, what are we going to do about that pesky human nature problem?
Yes.
Human nature is, we're biased, right? Fox News doesn't think it's biased. Fox News thinks it's telling the truth. MSNBC doesn't think they're biased. They think they're telling the truth. Bias is just a part of being a human being. It's not going to go away. And we got through it with email. We're going to get through it with social media, and we'll get through it with AI too. If American citizens can't be trusted to think for themselves and decide what to be skeptical of and what to take as truth, then we have a lot bigger problem with this whole exercise in a republic.
No, some people I think have a solution. There's the human condition problem. We're going to get rid of the humans and we're going to replace them with humanoids. That's yeah.
A cure worse than the disease, or burning down the house to roast the pig, I think they call it. But I think David Sack's comments are aspirationally fantastic, right? We should, just like in journalism, you try to present the facts and be unbiased, but everyone looks at the world through their own lens. The people who are programming AI models are the same, and also the content that model is drawing from, the inputs there, are a product of a lot of opinions and a lot of bias. And it'll be a market mechanism to get those results right, that people find them useful, that people trust them enough. We're not there yet. We might not ever be there 100%. That's okay. You're still allowed to use your brain on top of reading your AI results. We're going to have to work that out. Again, I think aspirationally keeping things fair and balanced is fantastic. The bottom line is who decides what that is, who's in charge of that, creates, I think, a bigger problem than when you have a bunch of competing models out there vying for each individual user. I think it's a much healthier, decentralized system for dealing with bias.
How do you use AI, and which AI do you use? Just like on a daily basis or weekly basis, however frequently you use it?
Yeah, I use Gemini, and I use it in a strange way. I write about these tech issues, these policy issues. I follow them. I know them inside and out, unfortunately. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll ask it to write me a 700-word article about it, and I kind of check the accuracy of it, because when I talk about this stuff and I defend the innovation of this technology, that's the only way I know personally how to check how accurate it is. And it's not always that accurate. I put it at about 80%. And so for me, that's why it's easy for me to experience AI as a helpful tool. It can be an aid to you in your work, but it's certainly not a replacement for the humanity of crafting work and ideas. But I think in terms of organizational stuff that I use it for, it's very helpful. And I think it'll get better and better. But part of it is the human learning curve. We have to figure out how it works for us, what we're comfortable with, what it's trustworthy to do. I think there's some really cool models where you can put in what it uses as input, and it can summarize things for you, and you're in a little bit more control as a user of what information it's pulling from, right? You only put in trusted sources that you trust. So I think there's going to be a lot of dynamic change in that area that makes things better and better for users. But I guess most of the time I use Gemini. I also use some of the Meta models as well. The open source stuff is really interesting. And for people who are kind of techie nerds in a good way, I think that open source stuff is really exciting and cool for them, because who knows what people are going to do with it. It's great.
Jessica, the memes will get better if nothing else. Jessica,
yes.
Yeah, we got that going for us. Jessica Malusian, Director of the Center for Technology and Innovation with the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Jessica, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Jessica joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Look at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Healthcare is complicated. It doesn't have to be. If you don't love how your health insurance works, maybe it's time to leave traditional health insurance behind. Take charge of your healthcare with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers you flexibility. Enroll anytime, choose your own provider, and select the program that fits your needs and budget. CHM is the original faith-based way of taking care of your medical bill costs. Learn more at chministries.org/wellness.
Golf legend Jack Nicklaus, tennis star Rafael Nadal, the late, great Kobe Bryant. What do they all have in common? They're all recipients of stem cell therapy, using your own body's healing properties to find relief from sports injuries and chronic joint pain. You can receive the same therapy at QC Kinetics in Naperville, Morton Grove, Oakbrook Terrace, Gurnee, and Crystal Lake. QC Kinetics Regenerative Medicine. You've been hearing their ads on this station for 2 years. And the response has been so exciting. So many AM 560 listeners are getting relief from chronic joint pain thanks to platelet-rich plasma and stem cell therapy from QC Kinetics. 92% of patients report satisfaction. Even Joe Rogan loves it. But these therapies are not just for sports stars and celebrities. They're available to anyone with chronic joint pain. So if you're considering surgery, stop now and contact QC Kinetics. Doesn't cost anything for a second opinion. Weekend appointments are available. This could be life-changing. Call today to learn more and see if you're a candidate. Call 312-809-5955. Tell them Dan Proft sent you when you call 312-809-5955. That number again, 312-809-5955.
Are you prepared for the Illinois estate tax? If your estate is worth over $4 million, your heirs could face a tax bill of up to 16% when you pass. Financial advisor Scott Tucker and the team at Scott Tucker Solutions can show you ways to potentially reduce or even eliminate that burden. One strategy is to start gifting assets during your lifetime to lower the taxable value of your estate. Another option is setting up irrevocable trusts, which can shield wealth from estate taxes. Charitable donations and life insurance policies can also be smart tools to offset tax liabilities. Planning ahead, though, is key. Without a proper strategy, your family could be left paying more than they need to. Don't wait. Call Scott Tucker and the team at Scott Tucker Solutions now to help protect what you've worked so hard for. 847-474-3888 or go to 560retirement.com. That's 847-474-3888 or go to 560retirement.com. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Okay, this basement is unreal. You've got a bar, theater seats. What is this place?
This is my escape. Forever Remodeling custom designed the whole thing. Not 1 square foot is wasted.
Man, mine still has a treadmill and a folding table.
Their designers asked a ton of questions. I wanted the ultimate game day setup. They delivered. Bar, big screen, sound that shakes the walls.
Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
At almostfreeteeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at almostfreeteeth.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, we're going to be joined by former Ambassador John Bolton. Always an interesting conversation. Just what sort of lasting damage did America do to Iran's nuclear program? We'll start there with John Bolton at 8:08. It is now 8 o'clock, AM 560, WIND Chicago.
Colombia makes a deal to end Trump administration scrutiny. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I'm really pleased that we were able to come to this agreement.
That's Education Secretary Linda McMahon on Fox Business a short time ago, reacting to Colombia paying $220 million to restore federal grants canceled by the government after destructive pro-Palestinian protests on campus.
You can't have students that are locked into a library on campus with other students pounding on the windows outside yelling, "Death to Israel, death to Jews."
In a statement, Colombia denied wrongdoing but did acknowledge anti-Semitism on campus. The Jewish students and faculty experienced painful, unacceptable incidents and reform is needed. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche could meet as soon as today with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted for her role in the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scheme involving underage girls. He committed suicide awaiting trial. But in the push for more files to be released, a federal judge denied an attempt to unseal grand jury records. The Wall Street Journal reports the president's been told that his name is among many in the files.
Maxwell could be meeting with more people as well. The Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee announcing he has issued a subpoena for a deposition. James Comer says, quote, "It is imperative that Congress conduct oversight of the federal government's enforcement of sex trafficking laws," and that deposition would take place in Tallahassee, where Ms. Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year sentence.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. A disaster in Russia. A plane crashed, reportedly in bad weather, making a second attempt to land, killing all 48 people on board. In Israel, there's a search for the driver who rammed a vehicle into a group of soldiers, wounding 8 of them. As attempts to stop the war in Gaza and free more hostages ramp up.
And Israeli officials told the AP Hamas's response to the latest ceasefire proposal for Gaza is workable. This as President Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff heads to Italy to meet the top Israeli negotiator.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 83 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Work is underway on new affordable housing on the South Side. Mayor Johnson joined city officials to celebrate the groundbreaking of the Legends South A3 affordable housing complex.
It's going to bring new life to a footprint of the old Robert Taylor homes, and revitalizing this area along State Street brings new retail and development opportunities for the entire community.
The project will bring 42 new affordable units and 10 additional market rate units to the former site of the Robert Taylor homes in the city's Bronzeville neighborhood. Members of the Chicago School Board are asking Governor Pritzker to call a special session to generate money for local schools. The Chicago Public Schools are facing a $734 million budget deficit. The board adds the school board across the states are also facing budget issues as federal COVID funds are running out. Chicago School Board members Aaron Brown and Debbie Pope embraced the Chicago Teachers Union's demands for the state to provide additional funds for schools. CPS must have a balanced budget by the end of August. The governor's office says it would like to provide more money for education, but finding the dollars was a challenge. NASCAR is taking the street race to San Diego next year. The event was held in Chicago's Grant Park for the last 3 years. The race will take place Father's Day weekend. Meanwhile, Chicago officials say there is a possibility the race will return to the Windy City in 2027. News is a service of Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland state-of-the-art smart security systems to protect your home or business. AM 560 listeners receive 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Get peace of mind by calling Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. Again, that's 708-889-5600. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but now time for the Signature Bank Business Beat.
I'm Taylor Riggs, and this is the Fox Business Report.
American Airlines is predicting it will lose money in coming months. Its earnings for the spring quarter were stronger than forecast, and revenue rose to a record. The expectations for its third quarter are based on fuel prices, anticipated future demand, and current bookings. American says it all depends on demand in the domestic market and on the downside, macro weakness, which means cooling of the global economy not seen today. The stock's down 4.5%. Tesla shares are down nearly 6%. Sales and earnings declined in the spring quarter. Tesla is planning to expand robo-taxi service and also plans a lower-priced Model Y SUV. Alphabet, parent of Google, reported a much better than expected quarter. That stock up 3.5%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Wow. At the time of this being written, both gold and silver are up some 40%. That's 40% in just 1 year. In fact, this past year, gold has broken all-time historic records by hundreds of dollars an ounce. And unlike all other financial instruments used today, that historic record goes back thousands of years. In times like these, prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins and bars, but also those old coin and paper money collections. They're especially looking for the scarcer dates and higher grade coins. Take advantage of the record high market price and our huge demand now, whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out their worth. Fox Valley Coins is the place to go. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just one light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family owned, integrity since 1981.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for. For this free information, call 800-422-1609. 800-422-1609. 800-422-1609. Or simply visit godra.com.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Josh Dawsey, Tyler Page, and Isaac Arnsdorf are out with a new book on last year's tumultuous presidential campaign. Titled simply 2024, the volume has within it much that is familiar, as well as many blasts of new details. The short of it is this: the 2024 election is the stuff of nightmares for Democrats, nightmares that are not going to go away anytime soon. I came away from 2024 asking, can anyone in the party's circle of consultants and donors actually run a campaign? The Beltway elites of the left are very long in the tooth and perhaps more angry with each other than they are with President Trump. Will any Democrat want anyone from either the Biden or the Harris teams to be on their staff come the future 2028 campaign? 2024 should be read by every would-be Democratic nominee. There are a lot of Beltway political experts who are anything but. Forewarned is forearmed. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
From the Tim Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes, outbound 15 minutes. On the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 29 minutes, outbound is 28 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 36 minutes, outbound is 24 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, about 34 minutes. It's about 20 minutes outbound. News is a service of Turnkey. Turnkey is the key to cyber protection. For a limited time, Turnkey is offering all new customers their first month of service free, including Microsoft licensing, antivirus, anti-malware, data backup, plus 24/7 help desk support. Visit turnkey.pro today. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, high of 94. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, low of 73. Thunderstorms could cause damaging winds and flash flooding. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and trying to get the straight scoop on what kind of lasting damage the airstrikes against the Iranian nuclear program had. We heard earlier in the week from an Iranian foreign minister. Actually, our friend Brett Baer interviewed Abbas Araghchi, Iranian foreign minister, who said this in response to Brett Baer's question to that end.
What is the extent of the damage to the nuclear enrichment program after these attacks?
Well, our facilities have been damaged, seriously damaged, the extent of which is now under evaluation by our Atomic Energy Organization. But as far as I know, they are seriously damaged. We need a new modality because the facilities have been destroyed.
Does Iran plan to reconstitute its enrichment program? Is it continuing now, or has the damage been so severe that it is all stopped?
It is now stopped because, yes, damages are serious and severe.
He said damages are serious and severe. Then he said destroyed. The nuclear enrichment program has stopped because of the damage inflicted. Now, of course, when you have an adversary who you don't believe because they lie about everything, then you can't take them at their word, even if they're telling something you hope is true either. I think that's sort of the Reagan trust but verify paradigm. So what do we know and what do we think the Iranians are trying to do? Perhaps say the damage is more substantial than it is for the purposes of having America gaze elsewhere. Perhaps not. For more on this topic and other geopolitical matters, we're pleased to be joined by former ambassador to the UN and assistant to the president for national security affairs, also the author of The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir. He is John Bolton. John Bolton, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So what's your assessment of the Iranian foreign minister's assessment?
Well, the point you made about disinformation, I think, is one you always have to take seriously. Interesting, back in Iran, Araghchi, the foreign minister, has been very heavily criticized for telling the truth. Now, that may be part of the disinformation campaign as well, but I think his assessment is actually pretty accurate. We don't know everything yet, and we're not going to have people on the ground who can do the kind of assessment we'd like. But I think it's fair to say that the three sites that the U.S. attacked, Israel attacked many more sites, but of the three sites that the U.S. and Israel both attacked, the program has been set back enormously. People talk about uranium enrichment. That's what Brett Baer's questions were about. Building a nuclear weapon is a lot more complicated than simply enriching the uranium, which itself is a very difficult process. And one of the things about the way the Israelis struck, compounded with our bunker busters and Tomahawk cruise missiles, was that the strike was against the whole range of activity that Iran or any other country has to go through to build a nuclear weapon. And by destroying or severely damaging the program in many, many places, you really make it extraordinarily difficult to put back together. Can the Iranians find a few hundred centrifuges, perhaps at Natanz, they can start spinning tomorrow? Sure, that's fine. But once you spin the uranium to weapons-grade levels of the U-235 isotope, you can't make a nuclear weapon with gas. You have to reconvert the gas into a metal. And those facilities, we believe, the Israelis destroyed at Esfahan. So the totality of the strike, and frankly, we didn't go far enough. I wish Trump hadn't halted after he did. But what was accomplished was very significant.
And what about the response, the typical sort of merely a flesh wound response from the mullahs? The fatwas, the assassination program. I mean, I remember that piece on 60 Minutes from, it had to be a year or two ago, where you were one of those featured as somebody who had been targeted for elimination by the Iranians. And of course, we had an assassination plot associated with the President Trump, that was foiled earlier this year. What are we to make of Iran's ability to retaliate in sort of one-off terrorist attacks or assassination attempts?
Well, I think it's very real, and this is part of their terrorist approach to things, that they're going to get revenge one way or another. And from Trump on down, people they associate with the U.S. strike against Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force, their external army, back in January of 2020, are still on that list, and that's the latest update. So, but they're also threatening Iranian Americans, people who have campaigned against the regime in the U.S., in Europe. And it's something that shows the nature of the regime in Tehran, what the Ayatollahs really think. They'll be happy to negotiate some new nuclear deal. They don't have any more intention of keeping their word on that than they did on the Obama deal of 2015, or of forswearing terrorism. It's a very dangerous regime, and I don't think there's any real prospect for peace in the Middle East until that regime ends its existence. We don't know when that will be. I hope it will be soon.
I wanted to get your reaction, shockingly, to this piece in the Washington Post documenting the financial struggles of an Iranian proxy, that would be Hamas. Early in the war, Hamas relied on taxes imposed on commercial shipments and the seizure of humanitarian goods, according to Gazans and current and former Israeli and foreign officials. According to a Gazan who has worked at the border, plainclothes Hamas personnel routinely took inventory of goods at the Rafah crossing until it closed last year, and at the Karim Shalom crossing, though it was under IDF control. They also surveyed warehouses and markets. Most of the Palestinians interviewed for the story spoke either on the condition of anonymity or only that their first name be used for fear of reprisal by Hamas. What the story documents is Hamas subsisting over pilfering humanitarian aid, even as they and the Western press are accusing the Israelis of starving the Gazans.
Right. This is a very important piece of reporting by the Washington Post. You know, it shows just how cynical and brutal Hamas is. But it also shows why simply getting assistance into the Gaza Strip isn't the end of the story. Hamas, for years now, has controlled the distribution pretty much of everything coming in. Make sure their fighters are equipped first, then selling other aspects of it, making sure their supporters and the civilian population are taken care of first. And they continue doing that, taking this humanitarian assistance given by the U.S. and others to UN agencies or non-governmental organizations like the Red Cross, that kind of thing, and then using control over food, medicine, and other basic human needs to control the Gazan population. This is nothing new. Saddam Hussein did exactly the same thing after the first Gulf War through what was called the Oil for Food program that people may recall, found to be extraordinarily corrupt across the board, but used as an instrument to control the Iraqi population by Saddam Hussein. And Hamas has been doing the same thing. This violates fundamental principles of American humanitarian assistance, going back to Herbert Hoover in World War I and the Committee for Relief in Belgium. We don't allow Hamas or the Germans, in the case of Belgium in World War I, to control the distribution of the humanitarian assistance. And so blaming everything on the Israelis is a total distortion of what's actually going on. I think a lot of the current turmoil is caused by Hamas, which is desperately trying to get control over the distribution of food and other things inside Gaza to get its revenue sources back.
I know we're short on time with you, but do you have time for one more?
Sure.
The piece that you wrote in the Wall Street Journal, I know you don't write the titles, but the piece was entitled "Trump Arms Ukraine but Still Wants Out." I think that's a fairly accurate reflection of your the tone of your piece. So is that wrong, that he should arm Ukraine but still want out?
Well, I think he's trying to extricate himself from Ukraine. He obviously was not able to persuade what he thought was his good friend Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire, not failing to do it in 24 hours, as he said during the campaign. That was never going to happen, but unable to do it even over 6 months. He didn't want to retreat. He didn't want to appear weak. It was the right decision to get these patriots to the Ukrainians. But it also gives him cover and a 50-day ultimatum to Putin. Look, in the war in Ukraine, that's a lifetime to divert people's attention elsewhere, and then he doesn't have to dwell on the failure to get the ceasefire. That's what I think is really going on here.
And can Ukraine survive another 50 days if they do get the Patriots in a timely manner?
Yeah, the key question is, will Trump also continue to supply other military assistance, weapons, ammunition, and particularly the intelligence we supply that the Europeans can't duplicate? If that gets cut off after this 50-day period, or whenever it gets cut off, if it does, that is very bad news for Ukraine's survival.
John Bolton is former assistant to the president for national security affairs and author of The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir. Ambassador Bolton, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me.
Annie joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there's lots of places that also have it. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every single second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock specialist is going to help solve the identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
2815 Old Jacksonville, Springfield. CordellCordell.com.
Have you seen the Milo bedroom at Penny Mustard Furnishings?
You know it, Daddy-O, and it's boss. I mean, if you don't dig the mod mood of the Milo bedroom, you're Dullsville.
Ben.
What's your bag, man?
Why are you talking like that?
I think I know. He's saying the Milo bedroom from Penny Mustard takes you back to the times of Mad Men, martinis, and mop tops.
Right on, Nicole.
Oh, well, I agree. It's refreshingly retro. I love Milo's clean, streamlined look.
It's a gas.
Sophisticrafted in the USA with solid wood and scaled to fit any room.
What you mean to say is, the Milo bedroom is perfect for your pad.
Yeah, dude. It's totally bodacious.
Wrong decade, Arvid.
Oh.
Don't be so square, man.
The Milo bedroom with queen platform bed, 6-drawer dresser, mirror, and 3-drawer nightstand, starting at $52.09 at Penny Mustard.
7 locations throughout Chicagoland.
PennyMustard.com.
Groovier versions of what people dig.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
Don't miss Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn every Sunday from 11 to 12. Robert has a different way of looking at retirement from most financial advisors and is happy to share his ideas with you every week. So don't miss what he has to say. Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn, Sunday mornings from 11 to 12 on AM 560 The Answer.
AM 560. The Answer.
Time now for another reason why Dan Proft is single.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yeah. You know, I was just getting over the trauma I suffered by consuming the story about stalker Jacqueline Claire Addis. I'll refresh your recollection momentarily, but then an alert listener brought me this story about an Ohio teacher named Hannah Freeman. The teachers again. Like that Downers Grove teacher, Formello. Teachers. Anyway, Hannah Freeman This was Hannah Freeman just a couple of days ago in court. Making noises only a dog could hear as she was sentenced for the crime of stalking, breaking and entering, following her ex-boyfriend to work at least 33 times in a single month.
I will take steps necessary to move on from this incident, and we will not see me back here again.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to place you on 18 months of community control. You'll be ordered to have no contact with Mr. McKenzie, the victim. In this case, as a condition of community control, you are to wear a GPS device for the first 90 days. You'll be on house arrest with work release. You'll be ordered to undergo mental health counseling, particularly for to establish healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
And you will serve the first 7 days of this term of probation in our county jail. You are ordered remanded.
Yeah, they thought they were going to avoid jail. Hannah didn't know she was going to have to do a week in the can, so she was a little distraught about that. This was Hannah Freeman being taken into custody after, well, she had gone across the line with her stalking and stealing.
Hannah Freeman?
Hannah Freeman? Are you supposed to be up here? Mm-hmm. You are? Were you in his vehicle earlier?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No?
No. It's
Well,
funny.
we went to get dinner together, but...
You guys, where'd you guys go get dinner at?
King's.
King's?
King's, yeah.
Raising Cane's? Which one?
North Olmsted.
North Olmsted?
At least she's a cheap date.
Well, we got a complaint from him that you were in his vehicle tonight and you're harassing him and stalking him.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. Did you take some items from him last night? Is your phone in the car?
I am. I'm putting it down.
Okay. Nice and easy, Hannah. We're going to take a little ride to the police station. So the stalking. I mean, I don't understand the stalking. I think we've discussed this before, but I just don't understand it. It's a volume business. There's a lot of fish in the sea and all the other cliches. I mean, Hannah, just move on. Now you've been court ordered to. If I was her ex-boyfriend, I'd probably want one of the monitors on that GPS device she's got to wear just to be on the safe side. But I mean, this stuff gets really crazy, as if following somebody to work 33 times and breaking into their car and then lying about it to police wasn't bad enough. I mean, you can't do better than a guy who's going to take you out to Raising Cane's for dinner, if that actually happened. It wasn't just her imagination. It reminds me reminded me, this did, because I brought back my trauma, of this story about Jacqueline Claire Addis of Phoenix. You remember this one? I think we brought this to you. She met the victim. Any story that starts with, any dating story that starts with "she met the victim" is why Dan Proft is single. She met the victim through an online dating service, went out on 3 dates with him, and, well, he decided that they weren't a match, and she disagreed.
I felt like I met my soulmate and everything was just the way it was. And I thought we would just do what everybody else did and we would just get married and everything would be fine. But that's not what happened.
Jacqueline Addis claims she went on 3 dates with a Paradise Valley man she met through an online dating service for millionaire matchmaking. Court records say Addis sent the victim 65,000 text messages, including threats to kill him, wear his body parts, and bathe in his blood.
To me, it seemed like more.
Addis does not deny the volume of text messages, but she would not get into specifics. She did, however, regret the nature of some of those messages.
When you're finding love, not everything is perfect.
No.
This was a journey.
Messy business.
And I want to apologize because nobody would ever be more sorry.
Addis said she never intended to hurt or scare the victim, and she doesn't blame him for her incarceration.
No. I love him.
Could you tell him to please call me? Woo-wee. All right. Coming up at 8:38, we're going to be joined by Pamela Garfield Yeager. She's a licensed social worker known as the Truthful Therapist. She penned a book called A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families. She's provides advice and counsel to families trying to resist the Lavender Bund, the trans mob that dominates so many government schools. She joins us at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 83 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. French President Emmanuel Macron is suing podcaster Candace Owens for claiming that his wife is a man.
The lawsuit, filed Wednesday, alleges Owens has waged a relentless year-long campaign of defamation against the Macrons and that they repeatedly asked her to stop, only filing a lawsuit as a last resort. The Macrons are seeking punitive damages against Owens and her businesses for 22 counts of defamation. Owens responded on YouTube by calling it a desperate public relations strategy. I'm Mark Mayfield.
President Trump wants America to be the world leader in AI.
Whether we like it or not, we're suddenly engaged in a fast-paced competition to build and define this groundbreaking technology that will determine so much about the future of civilization itself.
Trump addressed a summit in Washington, D.C. Wednesday where he unveiled his AI action plan for the U.S. The plan has three main parts: accelerating innovation, building out AI infrastructure, and making American hardware and software the standard AI platform. Trump also wants to cut down on regulatory red tape when it comes to building energy plants to power the growing technology. News is a service of Woodland Windows and Doors. Welcome a Woodland sales expert into your home and you'll get a no-pressure sale, a product expert, a design consultant, and someone who has your best interests in mind. Visit woodlandwindows.com to get started. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher thinks we have bigger problems.
This is not the easiest thing to navigate through. I don't want to ignore people who have big concerns about the Epstein files. I don't exactly know what's going on with the Epstein files, but I also believe that, and you may be mad at me, but we got much bigger fish to fry.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Charlie Kirk at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Mike Lindell and MyPillow employees want to thank my listeners for all your continued support. Mike has a passion to help get everyone the best sleep of their life. He didn't stop by creating the best pillow. He created the best bed sheets ever. Mike is offering the best deal on his Percale bed sheets. You can get a set for as low as $24.98. The MyPillow Percale sheets are breathable and have a cool, crisp feel. They have deep pockets to fit over any mattress. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial for my busy schedule. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you'll receive $100 in free digital gifts. Go to MyPillow.com now and use promo code LIBERTY to receive the MyPillow Percale sheets for as low as $24.98. Order now or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201, promo code LIBERTY.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available, financing is flexible, and at Air Right installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
From the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes, outbound 15 minutes. On the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 29 minutes, outbound is 28 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 36 minutes, outbound is 24 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, about 34 minutes. It's about 20 minutes outbound. This report is sponsored by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. What are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be hot and humid with sun and clouds, chance of strong thunderstorms later, highs reaching 94. Tonight stays mostly cloudy with a few thunderstorms, warm and humid, lows dropping to 73. Thunderstorms may cause flash floods and strong winds in spots. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the cultural battle over the transing of children, it rages on, actually. There is some good news and some less good news. On the good news front, this week, Children's National Hospital in D.C. became the latest children's hospital to end the prescribing of medications to assist children in quote-unquote transitioning to the opposite sex. The Gender Development Program page of the website for the hospital now has a message for both new existing patients, alerting them of this change, which they blame on the, quote, escalating legal and regulatory risks to the hospital. In other words, policy changes at the federal level. This is in D.C., of course, so the district as well. So that's a good news front. The less good news front, I was not familiar with this dude named Jonathan Voss Ness. I guess he was one of the stars of Jonathan Van Ness. He looks like Kenny Loggins in a dress. He was one of the stars of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. He just entered a contractual relationship with Ulta Beauty, a women's beauty product outfit. He's also featured in Sephora stores. We see a picture of him. Again, Kenny Loggins, long hair, like Conviction of the Heart Kenny Loggins, long hair, beard, in a dress with other women, and he's got, I guess, cosmetic products. Here was him making his entrance into an Ulta Beauty to celebrate this partnership with Ulta Beauty I was describing.
JD Hair is now at Ulta, and I'm here to see the display for the first time, you guys. Hi, honey. What's your name? Paulina. Nice to meet you, Paulina. Hi. Nice to meet you. What's your name, honey? Nice to meet you, Willow. We're going to see what JD Hair looks like at Ulta for the first time. It's going to be Ulta fun. Okay, let's see it. Who is that? She's so pretty. I got highlights since then. Do you think it's pretty? It's gorgeous. Do you think she's going to get along with all of her other new Ulta friends? Gorgeous. She fits right in. She does, right? Mm-hmm. JVN Hair is now at Ulta Beauty nationwide. We love the hair you have.
He's fun. For more on this topic, particularly as it relates to kids, not so much Jonathan Van Ness and adults, Pamela Garfield Yeager joins us. She's a licensed social worker in California, known as the Truthful Therapist. She's the author of A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families, and the just-released children's book, Froggy Girl, One Therapist's Answer to the Gender Book Industry. Pamela Garfield Yeager, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about the advice before we get to the book and sort of the book industry at the grade school level. Tell us about some of the, sort of the advice and counsel you give parents who are at odds with their kids when it comes to a desire to change their identity.
Well, it's a difficult answer because it depends on the age and the situation. However, I have a lot of advice when they're in the home versus when they're a little older and they're outside of the home, like a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things I advise parents to do is to limit or even cut off social media and internet use, because a lot of this is coming from the internet. So that is one of the first things. Most parents are aware of that, but it's one of the first things, points of advice. But the way I look at this whole gender thing is I don't look at it as an innate characteristic, as though someone was born with it, as a lot of the gender activists believe. The way I see it is that it's some kind of underlying issue that the child is using to express some other uncomfortable feelings, whether that be their body changing, a problem within the family, sexual trauma, struggles with autism. There's all different kinds of situations. So my advice a lot is about recognizing what is happening with your child within your family and addressing those issues and helping them with those issues, as opposed to focusing so hard on the gender.
Well, right. I mean, the part about social media and the web is the social contagion part that has been sort of well documented. I mean, how else to explain the explosion in young people identifying as something other than their biological sex? But it's a little bit more complicated in states like California, where you have the state as sort of a foreboding presence threatening to intervene if you're dead naming your child or otherwise doing anything short of celebrating whatever decision they made, no matter the age.
Yes, California, a few other states too, Oregon, Washington, even New York, New Jersey. It's more difficult there. And I no longer live there, but I lived in California. I testified against even one of the bills that was hell-bent on destroying families, taking away parental rights. So the government really is not in the favor of parents. So that is why a lot of my counsel is about building the relationship with your child and, strengthening your family, because that is what a lot of these bills are about. They're about kind of dividing the families and against what the parents' wishes are.
And so the Froggy Girl book that you've written, the children's book, what's the angle of that book?
So this is a book that I think maybe 10 years ago, pretty much everyone on any political spectrum would have liked. It's about self-acceptance. It's about a little girl who wants to be a frog, and her teacher and her parents and her friends, they're all really nice, so they affirm her froggy identity. But then she goes and tries to do the froggy thing. She tries to catch flies. She tries to go swimming, and she doesn't do very well because she's not a frog. And then she feels really lonely. So she goes on a little walk, and she meets a wise turtle. And the wise turtle teaches her and helps her accept that she's a beautiful little girl. So at the end, she's singing and dancing and celebrating that she's a little girl. So it's just about self-acceptance and recognizing that you can't just pretend to be something else. You can't just declare that you're something else just because you want to. It doesn't work out.
And so have you been labeled a transphobe and excoriated on social media yet?
The trans activists haven't found Froggy Girl in regard to this book. However, I've certainly been labeled that many times before due to the other book that you named, A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families. That book is much more directly about not affirming a gender identity and working on the underlying issues and giving parents alternate resources so that they're not divided and landed into dangerous hormones and surgeries. So certainly, yes, I'm a big transphobe in the world. That's okay. I'll take that label.
You're in good company with J.K. Rowling and so many others.
For sure.
You wrote about a note you received from a young woman after you launched the Froggy Girl, the name of your book, the Froggy Girl website. What was that note?
Oh yeah, that email came in before I even released it. I just put the website out. I didn't think I had any clicks or anybody even saw. You know, and you think you put things out in the void and nobody sees it. And then I got this incredible message from this young woman. She is a detransitioner, which is somebody who used to believe she was transgender and took the hormones and later regretted it. And the message to me was just how she said she felt really compelled to write to me because she wished she had a book like this when she was a little girl. She had a lot of mental health issues, and she really struggled, but she didn't like wearing dresses. I believe she struggled with her sexual identity, and the adults in her life told her she was transgender, and she took testosterone, and she had some challenges on the testosterone, and later detransitioned or just recognized that it was all a lie for her. And she went through a lot of heartache. And she said she really wished there was a book like mine, like Froggy Girl, that to help her as a little girl appreciate herself. Just as a little girl, she believes that if she had more books like that in her life, that she wouldn't have been through that. That was really special to get such a message.
Yeah, for sure. The people like the Chloe Coles of the world and Prisha Mosley, the detransitioners who've spoken out and share in sometimes graphic detail what they did and the physical and mental implications of it. I mean, they're giving great witness to the unbelievably terrible public policies and judgment calls of medical professionals with respect to these I would call them mutilations of kids. And I wonder if you think that the pendulum is swinging back. Because on the one hand, thanks to the Cass report in the UK and HHS guidance here and the regulatory environment as these children's hospitals are describing the change in policy orientation of the federal government, I wonder if you're seeing movement back towards sanity, or if it's still very uneven, because on the one hand you have these reports and the pressure on these hospitals to comply. On the other hand, you still have the same sort of LGBTQIA political movement and cultural mavens that are celebrated, and they're continuing on with these charades.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say I'm proud to know those two women he talked about, Prisha and Chloe, and they both endorse Froggy Girl personally. So they're incredible, and they are a big part of this pendulum swinging that you're discussing. And they've been in front of several committees and governments and testimonies, and I think they have shifted a lot of the public opinion. And plus, others out there have done the same. So yeah, it's both. Certainly, the tide is turning. Thanks to the federal government, thanks to several states putting bans on gender-affirming care, which is really just harm on children in the name of what they believe is acceptance. However, I am a therapist. I'm actually a social worker. I used to be proud of that label. Now I'm not so much, because my field is really hell-bent on pushing this still. So what they're doing is they are going a little more underground, and they still believe in this. I really do liken it to a cult and a religion. It's so you cannot reason with them. So they are pushing forward. However, I do believe even on both sides of the political aisle, people are waking up to the problems of this, the harms, and how it's not helping children. And a lot of them just didn't even recognize it's happening on the level that it's been happening. And I think this is one issue that maybe even persuaded the election in 2024. So I think it's still going to be a struggle. The culture still needs a lot of time. As you played that little commercial just before you brought me on, clearly the marketing companies still think that this is a way to get their customers, although I think they've already gotten a lot of backlash for that. We saw Bud Light get a lot of backlash at what year was that, 2023.
Yeah.
So certainly,
where is
certainly
Dylan Mulvaney when you need him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they sounded very similar, the two men.
Yes. Very similar wardrobes too, unfortunately.
So the culture is shifting, but
I know
it's gonna take time.
I saw Rahm Emanuel made the courageous announcement on Megyn Kelly's podcast that boys and girls are different. Wow. What a concession.
No.
But now he's probably running for president, so that's why he's chosen to make that concession, because he's trying to find a lane. So I wouldn't give him too much credit. But I mean, the idea that is a newsworthy event, that somebody says boys and girls are different because they're potentially seeking higher office, shows you how far we have to go yet, I think. Anyway, Pamela Garfield Yeager, thanks so much for joining us. She's a California licensed social worker. She's known as the Truthful Therapist, and Truth Therapist is her handle on X. The books, A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families, and her just-released children's book that we've been talking about, Froggy Girl. Froggy Girl is the new children's book. Pamela Garfield Yeager, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And she joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Dan Proft here. If you're dealing with chronic joint pain, stop what you're doing and listen up. I want to tell you about QC Kinetics, the game changer in regenerative medicine and longtime sponsor of Chicago's Morning Answer. Forget surgery, forget steroids. QC Kinetics uses your body's own healing power to restore damaged tissue and relieve that nagging pain in your knees, shoulders, back, you name it. 92% of patients find relief. This is cutting-edge, non-invasive treatment that's helped thousands ditch the pain meds and get their lives back. QC Kinetics, they're the pros, caring, knowledgeable, and totally focused on finding the right solution for you. If joint pain is slowing you down this summer, do what smart people around the country are doing. Call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. They have locations all over Chicagoland, including in Naperville, Oak Brook Terrace, Morton Grove, Gurnee, and Crystal Lake. Trust me, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including your freedom from pain. Get a second opinion. This could be life-changing. Call today to see if you're a candidate. 312-809-5955. Tell them Dan Proft sent you when you call 312-809-5955 to schedule your consultation. Again, that number, 312-809-5955.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard joining MediShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and that Idaho murderer, this piece of human detritus that killed 4 women, was sentenced to life in prison. But before he was sentenced, as is always the case, victims' families allowed to give impact statements. And I got to tell you, the statement from Olivia Goncalves, the sister of Kaylee Goncalves, who was one of the women murdered by this guy, is one of the greatest victim impact statements I've ever heard. I would encourage you to consume all 10 minutes, but let me give you a little flavor of what Goncalves did in her impact statement that generated applause from the court, and appropriately so. Outstanding.
There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind, but the truth is you're basic. You're a textbook case of insecurity disguised as control. Your patterns are predictable. Your motives are shallow. You are not profound. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now look at you, begging a courtroom for scraps. You spent months preparing, and still all it took was my sister in a sheath. You work so hard to seem dangerous, but real control doesn't have to prove itself. The truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, she brought it. And it was 10 minutes of just tearing him up. I mean, thoughtful and appropriately vicious, but spot on. It was good stuff. By the way, I misspoke. Of course, one of the 4 University of Idaho students he murdered 3 years ago was a young man, Ethan Chapin. And so it was young man and 3 girls. But again, the victim impact statement from Kaylee's sister there was really something else. A 10-minute tour de force. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. Do appreciate all the calls and commentary, discussions we got into this morning, particularly about the ongoing Russiagate matter, but about everything. As I mentioned earlier in the week, I'm off tomorrow to commit ecological crimes against the Merit Club up in Libertyville, but I'll see everybody back here on Monday if you can survive the heat and maybe the storms, hopefully not. Thanks again. It is now 9 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago. See you Monday.
Will he answer questions?
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Former Biden White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain goes to the House Oversight Committee this hour after other ex-Biden staffers took the fifth and refused to talk in the investigation into former President Biden's mental fitness.
I think it's likely that Mr. Klain asserts some privilege today as well.
And Republican Congressman Jim Jordan just told Fox Business they need a whistleblower to come forward.
Saying, yes, we signed things, the auto pin signed things that we had no authorization to sign, but someone else told us to do it, even though President Biden had not. And short of that, I think it's difficult to actually prove what we all suspect, which was other people were, in fact, in charge of the Biden White House.
Former President Biden has denied all of that, calling it a lie. That same House Oversight Committee has issued a subpoena to also question Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted in the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scheme involving underage girls. Now, Fox has learned that Maxwell will talk today to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche at the prison she's at in Florida amid a loud outcry demanding more information about Epstein's clients. But as Fox's Lucas Tomlinson reports,
a federal judge in Florida has denied one of 3 Justice Department requests to unseal grand jury records tied to Jeffrey Epstein, according to documents released yesterday. According to Judge